Chapter 1286. In the afternoon, after repeated communication with the Dragon Cave, the Star Arrival Army sent a few generals to the Dragon Cave and joined the camp guarding the entrance of the Dragon Cave. Of course, there were also a few baits that Jiang Shao had summoned after disguising himself. There were 2 baits with star warriors, one with the cross star map, and one with the ink flower star map. The 4 baits did not have Jiang Zhao's face. Instead, they looked ordinary and were dressed in the uniform of the Dragon Cave's guards. They had blended in with the soldiers standing guard. Second last and third last had also changed into the uniform of the Dragon Cave guards and were stationed there with the baits. Due to the fact that they didn't know how many clones Hopkins had left outside, the arrest team could be said to be extremely powerful. It was really difficult for ordinary Star Warriors to intervene in the team that was really going to capture Hopkins' real body. Jiang Shao also brought his own bait, and the only teammate beside him was Gaia. It was Gaia who was so excited that her body was trembling as if she was a dozen years younger. Jiang Shao found it hard to understand her hatred. After all, Jiang Shao hadn't been imprisoned for 60 years. 60 years? For ordinary people, that would be equivalent to life imprisonment, wouldn't it? At this moment, Gaia's real body had also been transferred by Jiang Shao into his Calamity Shadow World. Gaia also had a star technique that contained space, but due to its quality, her space was obviously not large enough and she couldn't bring her real body with her. From the moment she proposed to teleport her real body into Jiang Zhao's Calamity Shadow World, she had already completely trusted Jiang Shao. After all, he had done everything he promised her. In the Calamity Shadow World, Jiang Shao looked at the excited Gaia in front of him and asked, "Are you ready?" Gaia nodded and said, "Child, I've been ready for a long time. I've been preparing for decades. I've rehearsed the scene of seeing him again countless times in my mind." Jiang Shao hurriedly said, "Don't act rashly. Now that I have the 5th page, we can control him first." Gaia said, "Of course." Jiang Shao said, "The operation to capture the clone and the real body must be carried out at the same time. After we go in, we'll first destroy the Dragon Cave. Then, I'll take you back to Hopkins' Ocean Ridge world, and you can quickly find him by breaking through the space dimension." Gaia, Jiang Shao said, "I've been to his Ocean Ridge world before. As long as I locate the Alps where you were previously, I'll be able to enter and exit his space at will. There's no doubt about that." The Sea Ridge world was a space that Hopkins carried with him and a star bead star technique that was embedded in his star map. So, as long as I don't go to a specific location when I break through the dimensional barrier of the Ocean Ridge world, we'll be able to appear by his side at the first moment. Gaia licked his lips excitedly and said, "Prepare your 5th page." Seeing this scene, Jiang Shao couldn't help but shake his head and smile. This old woman, who was over 80 years old, had so many small movements today, and her expression was so rich. It was completely obvious that her heart was really excited, as if it was the new year. They don't seem to be celebrating the new year? It's Christmas? Jiang Shao suddenly thought of how Santa Claus greeted people in movies and dramas. After thinking about it, Jiang Shao said, "Let's go to the Dragon Cave first." The decoy in the Dragon Cave base also communicated with second last and third last. Everyone was ready for battle. At the next moment, Jiang Shao brought the 3 decoy and Gaia into the Dragon Cave together. Gaia frowned slightly and looked around. The scene was clearly beyond her expectations. When they arrived, it was nighttime and the bright stars were rotating rapidly in the night sky, as if they were in a hurry and didn't want to stay in this world for too long. Behind the 2 of them stood the 3 decoy, namely Star Warrior Shao, Cross Shao, and Ink Flower Shao. Together with his main body and Gaia, they formed a powerful 5-man capture team. Gaia looked at the strange phenomenon in the Dragon Cave and clicked her tongue in wonder. She squatted down and pressed the soft grass under her feet. "How do we make this place collapse?" Jiang Shao said, "The mechanism of the Dragon Cave is very special. There's a creature called the imprisoned dragon. Once it dies, the dragon cave will collapse. The imprisoned dragon seems to be the spokesperson of the dragon cave. Its birth and death represent the opening and collapse of the dragon cave. While speaking, Jiang Shao suddenly frowned. Gaia raised her head and looked at Jiang Shao. What's the matter? Jiang Shao said, I have an immature idea. It'll obviously take time to find the imprisoned dragon, but I have the imprisoned dragon. Gaia raised her eyebrows slightly and said, You have the imprisoned dragon? Jiang Shao waved his hand and a huge, pitch-black, 55-meter-long behemoth appeared above the two of them. Roar Wu! As soon as the roar dragon appeared, it let out a dragon roar and announced its domineering appearance. However, as the roar dragon looked at its surroundings clearly, its arrogant and domineering dragon roar quickly disappeared. In the end, its earth-shattering dragon roar turned into a puppy-like whimper. Look at how cowardly you are! Jiang Shao scolded with a smile. You're so domineering outside, but you're so cowardly when you're home? Wu! The roar dragon quickly flew down and scenes of the past appeared in its mind. If it weren't for Jiang Shao, it would have probably crawled into the ground and hidden me? I can be arrogant and domineering outside because I have that ability. I don't dare to be at home. My home is too terrifying. The dragons here seem to have gone crazy. They have no grudges against me, but they fight me as soon as they see me. Who can stand that? No matter how strong the star beasts outside are, at least they know fear and fear death. But what about the dragons in the dragon cave? All of them become members of a suicide squad when they see me. It's like a switch has been turned on. I'm not a coward, the world is against me. I'm not the one at fault, it's the world. Wu, the roar dragon's size could swallow a bunch of Jiang Shao in one bite, but it insisted on acting like a puppy. Its huge head moved to Jiang Zhao's side, seemingly asking for a pet. Okay, I'm just asking you to go through the motions. Don't be afraid. Come back. Jiang Shao reached out and pressed on the long whiskers of the roar dragon. Smack! The roar dragon quickly turned into a pile of star power and integrated into Jiang Zhao's body. Jiang Shao looked at Gaia and said, In theory, once the imprisoned dragon disappears, the dragon cave will collapse on its own. However, there have never been two imprisoned dragons in the dragon cave. I wonder if the disappearance of this one will cause this place to collapse? Rumble. As soon as Jiang Shao finished speaking, the ground began to tremble. Jiang Shao was overjoyed. Indeed. The mechanism of the dragon cave is really interesting. Jiang Shao has probably broken it. No, to be exact, the dragon cave has already been broken by Jiang Shao. When Jiang Shao came here, the dragon cave was in a normal state. That also meant that there was another imprisoned dragon here, but he did not know where it was hiding. Jiang Shao used his roar dragon to trigger the switch of the dragon cave and forcefully closed the dragon cave. Jiang Shao had experienced the collapse of the dragon cave many times, but this time was the most stable he had ever stood. With Gaia as the center point, the ground within a radius of 3 meters suddenly stopped trembling. The cracks in the ground that were trying to tear open quickly closed on the ground under Gaia's feet. Dimensional collapse versus Mother Earth. From the looks of it, Gaia had a small victory. Although the ground under Jiang Zhao's feet was flat and stable, the other places looked like it was the end of the world. The night sky shattered, the mountains toppled and the rivers surged. It could be said that the sky was collapsing and the earth was sinking. Jiang Shao shot out star power threads and locked onto the Alps in the ocean ridge world. The two figures flashed and disappeared. Swoosh, suddenly arriving at the tranquil Alps from an environment that was shaking violently, with mountains collapsing and the ground cracking, was indeed a strange experience. Jiang Shao sighed deeply and said, Get ready! Gaia's bright eyes looked at Jiang Shao with burning passion. From those eyes that should have been kind, Jiang Shao saw extreme hatred and an extreme desire to kill. TSK. Earth, How much hatred do you have in your heart? No wonder when Catherine said that she was Hopkins's servant, Gaia crushed her body with one hand. Not even her bones were left. Gaia's gentle voice was even a little hoarse. Open your 5th page. I will imprison his body, pierce through every inch of his skin and completely destroy his soul. I will take everything from his life, his star power, all his past glory, the goal that he worked so hard for. Jiang Shao couldn't help but smack his lips. At this moment, he finally felt the love from Mother Earth. This love. Too much? Too much. Even if Jiang Shao had 2 kings and 4 twos in his hands, he still couldn't take it. At the back, Star Warrior Udon had already opened the 5th page. Strings of words and symbols surged on the page, ready to be launched. Gaia said, "Take me out." Her majestic aura, which was mixed with a strong wave of star power, made Jiang Shao feel suffocated again. Jiang Shao breathed with difficulty and looked uncomfortable. That caused the collapse of the Dragon Cave to lure his clone on Earth to the Dragon Cave base. The 2 capture missions have to be carried out at the same time. Wait a moment. Once his clone enters the Dragon Cave base to cause trouble, we'll go immediately. Gaia said through her nose. A few seconds later, she sighed deeply. Sorry, I lost my composure. I've been waiting for this moment for too long. While speaking, Gaia pressed her hand on Jiang Zhao's shoulder and said, You now have the body of Earth too. Watch me later. The way I use the Earth star map might give you some inspiration. Jiang Shao nodded, but he suddenly asked, Where are you going after your revenge? Hearing this, Gaia was stunned. The effect of Jiang Zhao's words was very obvious. He quickly diverted her attention and also made her aura less imposing. Jiang Zhao's breathing also became smoother. After a moment of silence, she said, Return to my hometown and integrate into the Alps there. Okay. Jiang Shao couldn't help but exhort, You're very strong, but the most sinister thing in human society is the human heart. Be careful, don't be used by others. Gaia was indeed a person who was out of touch with the times, but the topic of the human heart was the same in every era. Gaia was out of touch with the technological society, not the human heart. Hearing this, Gaia gently patted Jiang Zhao's shoulder and said, Don't worry, child. I've been controlled for 60 years. For the rest of my life, I won't let this happen again. In the past few days, I've seen the battle between the land and the sea. If one day the battle stops, you can bring your friends to the Alps as guests. Jiang Shao pursed his lips. I've also found a good place for myself. You're welcome to come to the Himalayas in China. Raise flags. Stand facing each other. Stand like crazy. From Hopkins to the land and sea battles. 2 words, tough. 3 words, don't believe in heresy. Chapter 1287. The collapse of the Dragon Cave would take about 15 to 20 minutes. At the 8th minute, Jiang Shao grabbed Gaia's shoulder and said, He's here. He's here. His clone is here. Did Hopkins finally choose to come out after realizing that there was no hope of finding out the secret? Indeed, there was only hope if he was alive. At the instant that Jiang Shao and Gaia flashed out, second last and third last had already started fighting with the 2 Hopkins clones who had suddenly barged in. Indeed, he had left a clone on Earth. Furthermore, in order to ensure his life, this old man had left 2 clones on Earth. The clone that had suddenly barged in had a clear target. It was the 2 soldiers who were standing guard at the entrance of the Dragon Cave tunnel. The division of labor between the 2 clones was also rather clear. A doppelganger appeared in a corner, its hands radiating light in all directions. 2 thick energy beams shot straight at the soldier. As for the other doppelganger, it flickered rapidly, its figure drifting erratically as it plunged into the crowd. It seemed to be clearing the area and preparing for the follow-up action. Huff! It was also at this moment that mysterious star power characters suddenly appeared one after another in the huge Dragon Cave base. Huh? Hopkins, who was flashing and fighting, suddenly had a change of expression. He suddenly realized that he couldn't flash anymore. What star technique is this? King Crushing Ring? Hopkins was very sharp. He turned his head abruptly, only to see an ordinary face. It was a young soldier who didn't look like an expert at all. In fact, he didn't seem mysterious at all. He would probably be treated as an ordinary person if he were to be thrown into a crowd. To Hopkins, the young man was supposed to be just a speck of dust under his feet. In fact, he shouldn't even be looking at him. However, such a young soldier was actually holding a copy of Star Warrior Era? Hopkins was dumbfounded. The fourth page of Star Warrior Era had always been open and would not be affected by any star technique effects. However, under the effect of the fifth page, his body was completely frozen in place. He could no longer flash. Hopkins' clone was not the only one in trouble. His long-range clone also stiffened. Because the holy light shockwave that should have shattered the guards of the dragon cave had no effect on the two soldiers standing guard? The two soldiers who were sticking close to the dragon cave tunnel and opening the door didn't seem to be affected at all. Vaguely, Hopkins' long-range doppelganger seemed to see the holy crosses shining on the soldiers' chests. Whoosh, string after string of mysterious symbols completely filled up the dragon cave base. The two clones that had their fourth page broken also had ink blooming all over their bodies at the same time. Yes, not just one flower, but a bunch of them. Their astral powers were completely sealed and their bodies were shackled. They couldn't move at all. The decoy Jiang Shao stood with his back against the wall. The decoy Jiang Shao sat in the glass hut. The decoy Jiang Shao stood guard among the soldiers. They walked out one after another with plain faces and entered Hopkins's sight. Among the bait, some of them were holding the Star Warrior Era. Some of them had ink in their eyes and ink flowers on their chests. Some of them had crosses around their necks and the king broken ring in their hands. At this moment, Hopkins' two clones didn't even have the right to speak. Three last spread out her hands and ink flowers bloomed on the body of Hopkins' clone. She was extremely serious about this mission because she knew that it might be the highest level battle she had ever participated in her life. As long as there wasn't a mission to arrest Jiang Shao in the future, this mission would definitely be of the highest level. Her eyes were filled with ink, and she also saw the figure walking past her. Second last strode towards Hopkins' clone and grabbed him by the collar. She then pulled him towards her. She lowered her head, narrowed her eyes, and looked at Hopkins's face over and over again. She was just as resentful towards the old man who was shrouding Jiang Shao like a dark cloud. A few seconds later, second last suddenly asked, "How's it going over there?" One of the decoy at the back answered, "Wait a minute. Okay, it's done." Done? What do you mean by done? Just now, in the collapsing dragon cave, in the chaotic environment where the mountains and rivers were destroyed, there were a few people standing. Clearly, one of the elders was on the opposite side of a group of people. The elder's body was surrounded by mysterious symbols. There was an ink flower in front of his chest. The king broken ring was spinning rapidly around his body. Behind Jiang Shao, Star Age Dawn, Ink Age Dawn, Cross Age Dawn. The three decoy each had their own roles, and as soon as they appeared, they restrained Hopkins' body. Different from the bait outside, at this moment Hopkins's body was entangled by countless snake-like branches, tightly binding him. This scene was synchronized with the process of the people in the dragon cave capturing the Avatar. With complete preparation, it all happened in an instant and ended in an instant. Just as second last asked and the decoy said, "Wait a minute, it's done," the people who were confronting each other in the collapsing dragon cave immediately flashed away and entered the base where the decoy was. This time, Jiang Shao didn't act recklessly. This time, Jiang Shao only wanted stability. It was because there would definitely be Hopkins' clone in the dragon cave, which might cause trouble. Besides, the collapse of the dragon cave was getting greater and greater, and there were more and more cracks in the space. In a battle like the one between Jiang Shao and Hopkins, he had to seize the initiative and seize the opportunity. The background of the collapsing dragon cave was indeed cool, but Jiang Shao preferred to enjoy the fruits of victory quietly. Hopkins, who had been forcibly teleported into the Scourge ruins, was still standing quietly in the same spot. Well, he had no choice but to be quiet. After all, he couldn't move at all. However, his turbid eyes seemed to be able to speak as he stared at Jiang Shao with intense disappointment. Gaia, who was at the side, was trembling slightly. Well, she wasn't trembling in fear, but excitement, or perhaps anger? Let him speak, Gaia said all of a sudden. Jiang Shao could understand how she was feeling at this moment. After all, she had been waiting for revenge for 60 years. However, Jiang Shao had miscalculated something. What really infuriated Gaia was Hopkins' attitude towards her at this moment. From the beginning to the end, Hopkins didn't even look at Gaia. The person she had been thinking about and resenting for 60 years treated her as if she was nothing. He didn't even bother to look at her, as if she was trash on the street. Gaia was really sad and angry. Ink Flower Dawn moved her fingers, and the blooming ink flower in Hopkins' mouth slowly moved down. Gaia tried to suppress her emotions and said, "Hopkins, have you ever thought about this day?" Hopkins still didn't look at Gaia. It was as if they had never known each other. It was as if there was no past between them. It was as if everything he had done to her and all the pain he had caused her didn't matter. He didn't care. He really didn't care about anything. If you were the victim, you could laugh it off and go on with your life tomorrow. But if you were the perpetrator, you weren't qualified to laugh it off. You weren't qualified. Gaia's body trembled violently. Just then, Hopkins finally spoke. His turbid eyes were full of disappointment. He looked at Jiang Shao and said, "Child, I have taught you so much, but you treat me like this." "You? Taught me? You put a gun against the back of my head and urged me to grow?" Jiang Shao frowned slightly and said, "You?" In fact, it was better to put a gun against the back of Jiang Zhao's head. The problem was, Hopkins was putting a gun against the back of Han Jiangshue's head to urge Jiang Shao to grow. Among all the threats Hopkins posed, the greatest threat was not Jiang Shao himself, but the people Jiang Shao cared about. Hopkins sighed softly and said, "I'm very disappointed in you, really disappointed. I gave you the Star Warriors era, found you these mentors, opened up your horizons, and allowed you to enter a higher level. I've always been kind to you, but you don't know how to be grateful." Jiang Shao was so angry that he almost laughed. "You sealed all my star techniques and only kept the spatial star technique. You're telling me that you're teaching me to grow? You threatened me with the 3 armies on the alien ball and forced me to complete the task you gave me. Are you trying to broaden my horizons? You brought out your old teammates, Sparta, Trojan, and Poseidon, and tried to kill me the moment we met. Are they my mentors?" Hopkins suddenly pursed his lips and smiled. "You can already break through the shackles of space, can't you?" "I've succeeded." Jiang Shao said, "Damn it." Hopkins said, "Child, tell me, you saw the 6th page of the Star Warriors era, didn't you? Just like me, you saw the sad body." Jiang Shao said in a deep voice, "I'm not your child." Hopkins said to himself, "So you saw it. You know what's calling us, so you know what our mission is." As he spoke, Hopkins looked around and said softly, "So now you should understand that nothing in this world matters. Let go of me, child. We're the same kind of people. We have one last thing to do." Jiang Zhao's gaze was sullen and he pulled out the scorching sun blade. "I have one last thing to do, not you." Hearing this, Hopkins's face darkened and he said, "You know we need to work together to complete it." No, you need me to help you complete it, and I don't need anyone's help." Jiang Shao walked towards Hopkins with the scorching sun blade. "In fact, you forced all these tasks on me, and I don't even want to complete them." Hopkins's expression changed slightly and he said, "You have to think about the consequences, child. Since I gave you the Star Warriors era and let you understand our real mission, I also know that the 5th page will bring me a threat. Do you really think I'm not prepared for anything? Jiang Shao frowned slightly and stood in front of Hopkins. Seeing this, Hopkins smiled and said, "Child, you're a smart person. You know what I'm talking about." Jiang Shao bit his lip and nodded thoughtfully. "I have a friend." Hopkins asked, "Huh?" Jiang Shao said, "She's my best friend and my family. She taught me a truth. One compromise means a lifetime of compromise." Hopkins's expression changed and he said, "You have to think about it carefully. Minimizing the risks and dangers is the greatest responsibility I have to bear for this world." Jiang Shao looked serious and he twirled the scorching sun blade in his hand. "Hopkins, until now, you are still threatening me. This is the biggest mistake you've made." Looking at Jiang Zhao's determined face, Hopkins finally realized the seriousness of the problem. The little guy and pushover that he could bully at will turned out to be so tough this time. "You wait." Hiss! The scorching sun blade pierced through Hopkins's chest. The wide and thick giant blade tore through his upper body. The scorching hot scorched soil soaked Hopkins's body, and the skin around the wound was quickly covered with cracks. Jiang Shao held the back of Hopkins's head with one hand, put his lips close to his ear, and said word by word, "There is no compromise between you and me." A lot of blood flowed from Hopkins's mouth. Although his body was pierced by the scorching sun blade, there were still several blooming ink flowers on his body and feet, giving him no hope of escape. Feeling the rapid loss of vitality, Hopkins opened his eyes wide, moved his eyeballs with difficulty, and looked at Gaia. He opened his mouth, but his breath was very weak. "Gaia! Gaia!" For some reason, a smile suddenly appeared on Gaia's face. "Finally, you still look at me. Every time you are in the most desperate situation, you always think of me, right? Hope. My hope, I will help you. Just like 60 years ago, just like I did time and time again." Suddenly, Jiang Shao felt that there seemed to be a thin snake slithering in front of his chest. Jiang Shao froze for a moment and took a step back. He saw that Hopkins's body was covered with fine branches, like thousands of needles and threads, piercing Hopkins's chest, back, thigh, and back. In the last chapter of his life, Hopkins was like the last radiance of the setting sun, and he finally let out a miserable howl. Jiang Shao also watched the needles and threads, piercing Hopkins's head and coming out from the back of his head. In just a few seconds, this old guy really became a vegetable. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. As a Star Warrior, he had seen too many deaths. But this way of death, Jiang Shao couldn't help but shiver and turn to look at Gaia. He saw Gaia smiling, but with tears in his eyes, he slowly clenched his fist. "Finally, I broke free from your control. Finally, I'm free. Whether it's my body or my soul." Bang! Countless fine branches suddenly tightened, and Hopkins's body instantly shattered under the strong pressure. Jiang Shao subconsciously closed his eyes, and the dripping blood splashed all over him. Slowly, Gaia turned her head and looked at Jiang Shao. She said softly, "My hope died 60 years ago. Because of ambition, because of desire, because of a book." Gaia suddenly stretched out her hand, and the arm that was full of natural scenery extended infinitely. Finally, the warm palm touched Jiang Zhao's face and gently wiped away the blood on his face. "Child, promise me, don't die early." Jiang Shao closed his eyes, rubbed his face left and right, and said softly, "In fact, my life has just begun." Chapter 1288. 3 Kills of the Stars. 10,000 Skill Points. As Jiang Shao received a message from his internal star map, everything seemed to have been settled. No, not yet. Hopkins's clone was still in the Dragon Cave and second last, and the others had also detained 2 of his clones in the Dragon Cave base. At the side, a few flowers grew out of the ground and the petals slowly closed. The stamens of the flowers lifted Hopkins' star bead and brought it to Gaia's feet. she said softly. Child, can I, keep it? Jiang Shao smiled and nodded. Ever since he received the message from the internal star map, he had been in a much better mood. Keep it as a souvenir. After all, it's yours. Jiang Shao didn't know what to say. After thinking about it, he finally chose to keep quiet. Hopkins' scorching sun star bead was useless to Jiang Shao. After all, Jiang Zhao's star slots were already full, and his decoy couldn't use the internal star map or absorb human star beads. Since Gaia wanted to keep it as a souvenir, he decided to give it to her. It's just a star-breaking bead with 15 star slots, yes, a terrifying star bead with 15 scorching sun star slots and full output. Logically speaking, if Jiang Zhao's decoy could use the internal star map, he would probably be able to soar again. However, that was also a false proposition. After all, if Jiang Zhao's decoy could use the internal star map, he wouldn't have to absorb Hopkins' star bead at this moment. Jiang Shao would be able to create any 9 scorching sun star slots at will. Gaia said softly, "Thank you, I'll bury it in the Alps under my feet." Jiang Shao grimaced and finally realized that Gaia probably didn't want to pay tribute to Hopkins or their past relationship. Instead, she wanted to punish him. Don't try to persuade me to be magnanimous if you don't know my pain. Jiang Shao liked that sentence very much. He didn't want to judge Gaia's choice. However, while the two of them were talking, a piece of shocking news came from the Dragon Cave base. In the Dragon Cave base, 3 last frowned and stared at the melee clone that she controlled, feeling that something was amiss. There seemed to be something wrong with Hopkins's doppelganger. Was it down? Third last said, 9 tails, go and take a look. Under normal circumstances, she would address Jiang Shao by his name. However, there were a large number of guards in the Dragon Cave, so she addressed him more formally. Oh! Jiang Shao stepped forward as a decoy, but before he could get close to Hopkins' doppelganger, the doppelganger suddenly turned into a dense starlight and scattered on the ground. 3 Tails was speechless. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. Coincidentally, as the melee doppelganger turned into star power and disappeared, the long-range doppelganger that was firmly controlled also shattered into a pile of star power and fell to the ground, gradually dissipating. Jiang Shao was delighted. Even if you're Jiao Yang's clone, you'll still dissipate after your main body dies? Actually, if I think about it carefully, this is inevitable. After all, both the clone and the decoy were essentially made of star power. In other words, the doppelganger and decoy would not age. He Yun's bait was an example. He had told Jiang Shao a long time ago that as he grew older, his body would gradually age and not be as good as before. If he were to compare the physical fitness of the decoy that He Yun summoned in the upper snowfield with his current body, the decoy would definitely be better than He Yun's. That brought about a problem. If his main body died, but the decoy did not, it would mean that, to a certain extent, Jiang Shao could achieve immortality. Yes, 100 years later, Jiang Zhao's body wouldn't be able to escape the cycle of aging, sickness, and death. However, the bait that he summoned was pure star power and would remain in the same state as when he was summoned back then. He would never age. That was immortality. The Star Warrior's world was not a world of immortal cultivation. The mechanism of the world would not allow the emergence of immortality. As Hopkins died, his doppelganger, which was inextricably linked to him, also lost its consciousness. Soon after, it shattered into a pile of star power and completely disappeared from this world. Jiang Shao turned to look at second last and said, "This also means that we don't have to go to the Dragon Cave to capture Hopkins's clones one by one. They'll die naturally. They're probably already dead when we're talking." Second last said, "Or, those clones might have already been torn apart by the cracks in the Dragon Cave before you said that." Ha! Jiang Shao sighed deeply and suppressed the excitement in his heart. He muttered, "It suddenly feels so surreal. It's like a dream. Everything is going too smoothly." Upon hearing his words, second last frowned slightly, seemingly dissatisfied with Jiang Zhao's words. She stepped forward and stared at Jiang Zhao with an intense gaze. The mission is going smoothly, which is a recognition of your abilities and our plan. Why? Do you want to use someone else's life as a tribute to Hopkins's death? Jiang Zhao grinned. He was in a good mood and didn't care about what second last said. He smiled and said, "No, no." Second last pressed her hand on Jiang Zhao's shoulder and said in a hoarse voice, "You've been going back and forth for 300 rounds. Those exciting scenes can only appear in movies. In this real world, I hope that every one of our enemies will die immediately when we're fully prepared. Not only must they die, but they must also die completely without any possibility of resurrection." "Okay." Jiang Zhao nodded repeatedly. "That's not his biggest problem," said third last calmly. "Huh." Second last turned to look at third last. Staring at the dissipating star power on the ground, third last said softly, "Until now, he still hasn't truly realized how strong he is. His star map, his star techniques, his brain, and his heart. He has a strong heart, but his attitude has always been very humble, which forms a very clear contrast with his strength." "Okay." Second last lowered her head to look at Jiang Zhao, but she was using the third-person pronoun. Clearly, she was talking to third last. From this moment on, no one in this world can pose any threat to him. In this Star Warrior's world, he's already standing at the peak of the world. It's a good thing for him to be humble and humble. There was something else that second last didn't mention. Jiang Zhao's remaining in such a state was a blessing for his friends and comrades, as well as the entire China. In fact, it was a blessing for the entire world. At this moment, Jiang Zhao's relationship with the world had already undergone a 180-degree change. It was no longer a question of whether the world could accommodate Jiang Zhao, but whether Jiang Zhao was willing to accommodate the world. Ever since the fourth page of Star Warriors Era appeared and the star map appeared, Jiang Zhao's initiative in this world had undergone a drastic change. Jiang Zhao shook his head repeatedly and said, "No, no, no. I'm not at the peak. You are. You're the commander, you're the big boss." Second last was speechless. She was just glad that she had met this rookie in the Stardust stage 5 years ago. Although Jiang Zhao had always mocked himself and said that second last was the one who forced him out. However, deep down, second last didn't actually accept such a statement. Everything happened naturally. He had always been such a person who was extremely compatible with her creed. There was no need for him to force himself out. On the contrary, it was Jiang Zhao who had influenced her more in the process of growing up. In fact, when second last set her sights on Jiang Zhao, she had never taken a liking to his strength, but to his heart. Everything was just as she had said back then. Strength could be nurtured. Loyalty flowed in his blood. She felt even more fortunate that the person in front of her, that passionate and loyal heart, had never changed from beginning to end. "Let's go back to sort out the information and report the situation," second last said. As second last spoke, a Jiang Zhao suddenly appeared beside her. "He should be his main body, right?" "Yes, it should be his main body." At the next moment, they had already returned to Xinglin Courtyard. Second last raised her head and gestured to third last, who nodded and left silently. Although she was second last's guard in name, third last was actually the real commander of the Xinglin army. Everything that second last needed to do was done by third last and the Heavenly Hound. Besides, the Heavenly Hound had already gotten used to discussing important matters with second last. Instead of discussing them with second last, he would look for third last to make decisions. Hence, the question was, which position was the fastest to be promoted? The answer was definitely second last's guard. Others might not know, but you have to be clear about it. You're definitely not going to be a guard, but a foreman. "Let's go walk around with me," Jiang Zhao said as he stared at three last's back. He then turned to look at second last. Walk around? Second last was unfamiliar with that term. She also understood that it was definitely not a stroll. Hence, she nodded gently. Jiang Shao opened the door of the Calamity World and walked in with second last. In the lakeside forest, second last saw a few unfamiliar old men in the wooden hut where the tail feather team used to live. Jiang Shao said, "These are members of Hopkins's team. They are also the kings who once conquered the European continent of Alien Planet." After a moment of silence, second last said, "They're your mechas now." Jiang Shao pursed his lips and said, "I was originally prepared to bring these mechas with me to unleash the last remnants of their lives. However, the more I get to know Hopkins, the more I realize that ordinary people can't participate in the battle at all." Jiang Shao stepped forward and continued, "You've seen it for yourself. They're all in their 80s and have one foot in the grave. Although they're still in the star power realm, their bodies are just like that. Now that Hopkins is dead, let's bury them too." Ever since Jiang Zhao's decoy had advanced to the end of Star's stage, he no longer had a need for the mechas. Among the three of them, only Troy's marionette star map was interesting, but Jiang Shao didn't take a liking to it. After all, Jiang Zhao's star map consisted of the 9-star array: Star Warrior Era, Earth, Oil Ink Flower, Holy Cross, Soul of the Sea Devourer. It seemed that the functional star map was still the most impressive, and Jiang Zhao's Flower Blade had a high chance of appearing too. However, he rarely used the Withering Bow. However, it couldn't be said that the Withering Bow was useless. After all, whenever the Withering Bow appeared, it would always be a highlight. It was even more terrifying than the Flower Blade. Why did he say that? Because whenever the Withering Bow appeared on the battlefield, there would definitely be deaths. The lethality rate was 100%. Question: what's the secret to maintaining such a high lethality rate? Use it sparingly. Hearing Jiang Zhao's words, second last nodded. Clearly, she was now on a different level and no longer had any need for the so-called gods. Jiang Shao brought a few mechas and flashed into the depths of the forest. "Let's build a cemetery here. Why don't I bury old Hua Xing and Elisabeth too?" Forget it, they're only in their 60s, they can still live for a few more years. When their health deteriorates in the future, we'll bury them here too. Second last was speechless. If the world knew who was buried in the lakeside forest next to Jiang Zhao's villa, the whole world would probably explode in anger. A bunch of gods at the end of the stars? You haven't cultivated to the end of the stars yet you're embarrassed to be buried here? Second last suddenly felt a little offended. At this moment, she didn't seem to be qualified to be buried here yet. Yes, soon. With a little more effort, she would be qualified to be buried in Jiang Zhao's backyard. Jiang Shao really did not expect that Sparta, Troy, Poseidon, the last remnants of the ancient gods' lives would actually turn into 10,000 skill points and be integrated into his internal star map. 4 kills of the stars. Skill points 10,000. 5 kills of the stars. Skill points 10,000. 6 kills of the stars. Skill points 10,000. Of course, Jiang Shao left their corpses intact. Besides, Jiang Shao was also very gentle with his mechas. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. After all, Hopkins was the real culprit of the enmity between Jiang Shao and the three men. The three ancient gods had wanted to kill Jiang Shao, but Jiang Shao had resisted. That was all. It was enough for him to leave their corpses intact and let them rest in peace. Of course, Jiang Shao couldn't save everyone. Among the three of them, Jiang Shao tried to communicate with the other two and provide them with another way out, except for the Sparta who would kill him as soon as they met. But obviously, in the hearts of these old guys, Hopkins was too powerful. They didn't accept Jiang Zhao's suggestion because they didn't think that this young man could stir up any trouble. Hence, they were all ready to kill Jiang Shao. It was obviously impossible for Jiang Shao to not resist and redeem them with a compassionate heart. The oppression you're suffering has nothing to do with me, and it's not a reason for you to kill me. After all, there was a bottom line for Jiang Zhao's kindness towards this world. Second last watched as Jiang Zhao buried the three of them and asked, "What happened next?" "Yeah, what happened next?" Jiang Zhao placed his hands on his hips and thought about it before saying, "Actually, I don't feel anything, but you suddenly made me feel like I was a god and made me feel giddy." Second last was speechless. Jiang Zhao said, "Let's see how this world reacts to me after Earth Akatsuki appeared. Maybe Earth Akatsuki isn't comparable to Star Age Akatsuki, but Earth's strength is too obvious." "Yeah." Second last nodded, seemingly deep in thought. Jiang Zhao said, "At least there's still the war between the land and sea now. We're in danger, so let's talk about it later." Second last said softly, "No matter what happens, we'll face it together." Upon hearing her words, Jiang Zhao smiled at second last and gave her a thumbs up. "There's nothing wrong with that. I'll reward you with a few grilled codfish later. Ask for some tickets." Chapter 1289. Enya has fallen. Faima is in a state of emergency. Japan is surrounded by enemies, and Malaysia will eventually be submerged and become history. Everyone in the ocean nation is in danger. All marine operations around the world have been put on hold, and the economic losses are immeasurable. The number of casualties is hard to calculate. How long can humans persist? A god-level star warrior has appeared along the coast of Liaodong, China. He repelled the marine army with his own strength. Its torso is connected to the mainland and the sky. Is this really within the scope of a star warrior? The appearance of the mysterious star warrior has given China a shot in the arm in the face of a crushing defeat for the humans. The feud between Jiang Zhao and Hopkins was private, and no one could see it. Of course, they might never know that Jiang Zhao had silently gotten rid of a world-class criminal. What the world really saw and paid attention to was the situation in the coastal towns, while the Chinese naturally focused their attention on the coastal battlefield in their own country. In the week after Jiang Zhao resolved the crisis with Hopkins, second last, Jiang Zhao, and the first commander of the three armies finally got into action after integrating the internal information, reporting it to the higher-ups, and having a long talk with second last. Jiang Zhao adjusted the composition of the bait and sent out a total of 7 Earth Dawns. They entered the coastal towns of China and cooperated with the Chinese army to form a defense system. The strange and huge body of Earth Dawn, as well as his mysterious face, were inevitably revealed to the world. Although Earth Dawn only had 30% human skin, people could still vaguely see the face of the god-level star warrior. It was also when Earth Dawn settled in eastern Guangdong that the image of Earth Dawn was completely exposed on a sunny afternoon. Previously, there had been occasional images of Earth Dawn circulating in various coastal areas, but most of them were not clear. Besides, there was all kinds of false information on the internet, which added a layer of mystery to the god-level star warrior. Ever since the Earth Dawn of the defense line in eastern Guangdong was exposed, people frantically searched for the identity of the god-level star warrior, but they could not find the answer. Because Jiang Zhao had summoned Earth Dawn in a disguised form. Not only did he disguise his face, but he also disguised his gender. Mother Earth had to have a child of Mother Earth. This was the image of a mature, gentle, middle-aged woman. Since Dawn of the Earth only had 30% human skin, and it was evenly distributed over her entire body, it was hard to tell from her skin. Therefore, this added to the mystery of Mother Earth. Jiang Zhao only sneered at the mother hunting campaign that was launched on the internet. Go ahead and find him. Such a perfect person can only appear in a dream. When Jiang Zhao transformed into this woman, he had put in a lot of effort. It was the epitome of the gentle beauty of a Chinese woman and the brilliance of motherhood. The body was easier to shape. After all beautiful bodies were the same. However, Jiang Zhao spent the entire night pinching her face. repeated revisions and meticulous fine-tuning. The real name of the secondary star technique should be the face-shaping simulator. What kind of image would be worthy of being the Mother Earth of all mankind? To be honest, even Gaia would feel ashamed of his inferiority if he saw this. Jiang Shao had created the perfect image in his heart. If you guys can find such a woman in this world, Jiang Shao will eat her up on the spot. Forget it, don't be too certain. What if? However, it was a pity that 70% of the face that Jiang Shao had painstakingly created was covered by forests, grasslands, rocks, mountains, and other terrain. The decoy helped the Chinese camp resist the ocean crisis, while Jiang Zhao's main body flashed into the Dragon Cave again after waiting for 7 days. It was time to explore the real secret. The last time he entered the Dragon Cave, Jiang Shao was lucky enough to find a surviving hidden dragon among the many dragons. He also found out how the Dragon Cave operated. When Jiang Shao captured Hopkins, he caused the Dragon Cave to collapse. Now, it had been 7 days. Although the tunnel entrance to the Dragon Cave had been closed, the interior of the Dragon Cave should have stabilized, right? There shouldn't be any more landslides and spatial rifts, right? Jiang Shao, who had endured for 7 days, returned to the Dragon Cave in a flash on a dark and windy night. Jiang Shao was extremely vigilant, thinking that he would immediately flash back if there were any more spatial rift. However, the scene that unfolded in front of him made Jiang Shao extremely astonished. There were no longer any spatial rifts in the Dragon Cave. The environment that he expected to see floating dragon corpses did not appear either. Instead, it was replaced by strings of mysterious star power characters and symbols. It was just as the hidden dragon had described. Everything had turned into nothingness. Snow mountains, deserts, grasslands, wilderness. Even the sun, moon, stars, and all kinds of dragons had turned into star power words and symbols. In the silent environment, the light was very dim. There was no sky, no earth, and no concept of north, south, east, or west. There were only those mysterious words and symbols that emitted a faint blue light. Gulp. Jiang Zhao's Adam's apple move. The scene in front of him completely stunned him. It was not that he had not imagined the scene that the hidden dragon had described in his mind, but when it really appeared in front of him, he still could not get used to it. The most important thing was that these mysterious and strange words and symbols did not float around one by one. They were more like neatly arranged strings after strings, flashing across Jiang Zhao's eyes like a bullet screen. They could only move in 2 ways, horizontally and vertically. The more Jiang Shao looked at them, the stranger he felt. Why did these words and symbols look like codes? Jiang Shao was wearing a cloak and flying slowly in this strange environment. A string of words and symbols slid down from above his head. Each word was square in size and about 10 meters in length. Jiang Shao suddenly stopped and let the symbols slide down in front of him. When he saw the third symbol, Jiang Shao could not help but summon a decoy. The sea devourer considerately threw out the tail of its cloak and provided a platform for Jiang Shao to stand on. On the other hand, the decoy, Jiang Shao, slowly extended his hand and touched one of the star power words. Swoosh, the words and symbols seemed to have a physical form and were pieced together by some kind of energy. However, Jiang Zhao's hand actually penetrated the star power words. They were clearly sliding down in front of him, but he could not touch them. Jiang Shao had a look of discomfort on his face. What the hell is this? Why is it so strange? The two Jiang Shao searched for a long time in this strange environment, but they did not find any dragon creatures. It seems that no dragon will be spared this time? Of course, Jiang Shao did not dare to make a deduction. After all, the area of their operation was still too small. How big is this place? No one knew. Who knows, there might be a dragon that survived the collapse of the space hidden in some corner. After flying around and searching for more than 10 minutes, Jiang Zhao's eyes were almost dazzled. Gradually, he seemed to have found some patterns. These words and symbols were still traceable, not in the way they moved, but in their image. There seemed to be a fixed combination of words and symbols. Should I take out a pen and paper to record these words that are moving and falling around? Jiang Shao raised his eyebrows slightly. Just as he was about to open the space door and find a pen and paper, his hand paused. He did not open the door. Instead, he took out his Star Warrior Era. Jiang Shao quickly flipped to the third section of Star Warrior Era and flipped to the sixth page, which was the second last page of the book. Similarly, Jiang Shao, the decoy, also quickly flipped through Star Warrior Era. In the eyes of the two young scholars, the sixth page of Star Warrior Era was half a body and half a word and symbol. The two of them had the same reading habit. They moved their fingers horizontally on the page and memorized the words and symbols. Then, they raised their heads and compared it with the words that were moving horizontally and falling vertically around them. Under the effects of synesthesia, the two of them ate the book at an astonishing speed, constantly dividing the words on the page into paragraphs and arranging them. As he read, Jiang Shao, the decoy, suddenly felt that something was wrong. Two bodies, two brains, they were all independent individuals, but they had a single soul. Under the effects of synesthesia, Jiang Shao did not figure out what was going on, but the page in front of him had been completely solved. This was because the real Jiang Shao had come out. F***ck. Jiang Shao muttered to himself. On the page in front of him, the sad body was finally revealed. It was obvious that it was the body of a man. It was really just a body. He closed his eyes as if he had been dead for a long time. If the second half of the picture made Jiang Shao feel a little sad and desolate, as well as a sense of guilt and helplessness, the emotions revealed in the whole picture almost drove Jiang Shao crazy. Me? Who do I owe this to? Why do I have to be so sad and guilty? Don't mess with me, brother. I've never owed anyone anything in my life. Jiang Shao looked upset. If he was given another chance to choose again, he would not want to solve the other half of the picture. Damn it. Messing with my mentality? Also, why did I suddenly solve the first half of the book? I didn't have any epiphany either. I didn't understand anything either. I didn't understand it myself, did I? Did this book deliberately make me understand it? As he thought about it, a message appeared in Jiang Shao and Jiang Zhao's mind. It was not a pure transmission of words, but more like a transmission of emotions. It was a pure expression of meaning. If he had to make an analogy, it would be very similar to the humming whale's sea dream star technique. There were no words, only emotions, and it was more like a transmission of thoughts. Jiang Shao could completely understand what the other party wanted to express. Those who transform me will live, those who break me will advance, and those who resemble me will die. Jiang Shao was speechless. He scratched his head and stared at the sixth page in a daze. After a long while, he stammered, sorry to disturb you. I'm going back to go shopping and drink milk tea. We'll talk again when we're free. When we're free. Chapter 1290. A week later, Jiang Shao took the two baits and wandered in the quiet dragon cave surrounded by text symbols, trying his best to understand the mystery of the world. Suddenly, a series of wails came from below a string of moving text symbols. What does it mean? Trying to be mysterious. I'm telling you, if I still can't understand it, I'll really go home and drink milk tea. Jiang Shao muttered. It had been 7 days, but Jiang Shao still did not understand the meaning of this space, nor did he understand the specific effect of the sixth page. Or, is the sixth page's function to simply deliver a message? Those who transform me live, those who break me advance, and those who resemble me die? Moreover, Jiang Shao could not understand the seventh page. Until now, the seventh page was still full of text symbols and not in the form of images. Jiang Shao touched his chin and did not intend to waste time here. It was better to do something that could be done first and put these mysterious things aside for the time being. Jiang Zhao's 9 stars formation could turn into a star weapon for the second time, and his ability to turn back time had also increased by countless times. Now, he could go back to the scene of his parents' disappearance. If he wanted, he could even go back hundreds or even thousands of years to see what the ancient war looked like. Logically speaking, Jiang Shao could now go write a history textbook, absolutely objective, absolutely accurate, and restore all historical facts in all aspects. The next moment, Jiang Zhao's eyes lit up with the 9 stars' eyes. Although Jiang Shao was still at the peak of starry sky, he had advanced to the end star stage through bait. So Jiang Shao had been enlightened twice and mastered the ability to turn into a star weapon for the second time. 9 bright stars lined up neatly in his eyes. In an instant, in Jiang Zhao's world, the text symbols that drifted from left to right and horizontally floated back. The text symbols that slid down from top to bottom quickly slid back up again, as Jiang Shao was going back to the time 8 years ago. He deliberately sped up. Jiang Zhao's expression was slightly shocked. Inevitably, during the process of backtracking, Jiang Shao saw the scene of the dragon cave collapsing. All the mountains and rivers, the sun, the moon, and the stars actually shattered into text symbols in an instant? Before it shattered, Jiang Shao also saw the tragic scene of the dragon cave collapsing. Oh, poor dragon! He was cut into pieces by the space cracks that were everywhere. Oh my God, was this the legendary dismemberment of a corpse? It was a pity that the dragon died after being cut into 10,000 pieces. If it was an earthworm, would it grow another 10,000 dragons? While thinking about it, Jiang Shao looked at the scene of the natural disaster and couldn't help but be astonished. Too scary. Really too scary. Fortunately, he had left the dragon cave before it completely collapsed. Otherwise, he would have been torn to pieces by the spatial cracks long ago, right? Come to think of it, the hidden dragon from before was really lucky. Only its tail had been cut off, and it had survived while struggling at death's door. If we're talking about lying down, it's you, the hidden dragon. During the crazy backtracking of time, Jiang Shao experienced the collapse and opening of the dragon cave again and again. In the beginning, they were amazed, but they gradually got used to it. The second star martial transformation of the 9 star eyes was definitely strong, but the problem was that it didn't bring a good mentality to people. Here, Jiang Shao saw the dragon clan's unchanging hunting and biting. He also saw groups of soldiers either successfully returning home or dying tragically here. Jiang Shao saw the reversed mountains and rivers, and he also saw the sun, moon, and stars flowing back. When one could witness history and truly witness the rise and fall of history, Jiang Shao suddenly had a thought that wasn't quite right. It seemed that a lot of things really weren't that important. The powerful dragon clan didn't change for 10,000 years, and they were always fighting. Groups of human soldiers broke in again and again, leaving their lives to fate. However, all of this was just a drop in the ocean, and also a drop in the torrent of time. The scenes of life and death that should have shocked people and made Jiang Shao feel awe became repeated pictures, making him feel more and more numb. Millions of lives, their goals, persistence, and beliefs. Millions of Dragon Clan, their habitat, hunting, and fighting formed the main theme of the Dragon Cave. In this main theme, the life and death of an individual infinitely reduced the impact it had on Jiang Zhao's heart. Since when did I suddenly not care about the lives of my comrades? Heh! Jiang Shao took a deep breath and slowly closed his eyes. He held his forehead with one hand and rubbed his temples with his thumb and ring finger. If this continued, he would really not care. After adjusting for a while, Jiang Shao opened his eyes again. In his vision, the frozen scenes returned. Jiang Shao also put on a cloak and flew in the direction of the entrance of the dragon cave. In the Dragon Cave, which only had words and symbols, there was no concept of north, south, east, and west. However, in Jiang Zhao's 9-star eyes, there was a very clear image of the terrain. In fact, when Jiang Zhao first flashed over, the location he set was the entrance of the Dragon Cave, which was the intersection of the 4 terrains. However, in the following week, Jiang Zhao searched everywhere and left the entrance. Returning to the entrance again, Jiang Zhao focused and increased his strength again and again to make time flow faster. On a beach in the land of Ludong, a tall and slender figure was standing quietly on a boulder, looking at the sea and sky in the distance. The early autumn sun was still scorching hot, but the sea breeze was cooling and blowing her long black hair. Under the boulder, there was an obsidian elephant bishop standing silently against the sea breeze. Around him were a few obsidian Praetorian guards who were standing vigilantly. All of a sudden, the sand on the beach flowed, forming a whirlpool-shaped quicksand. The elephant bishop gripped the long cross scepter in his hand tightly and yelled, %@. In an instant, the imperial guards around the boulder picked up the spears in their hands and aimed at the whirlpool-shaped quicksand. Slowly, a pocket-sized giant tree emerged from the sand. Under the tree's hair was a pure human face. The first form of the earth, Dawn, was very different from the second form, not only in terms of size but also in terms of appearance. On the boulder, Han Jiangxue looked down and happened to see Jiang Zhao's head. Jiang Zhao waved his hand and said, "What are you doing? Are you going to jump into the sea?" There was a faint smile on Han Jiangxue's expressionless face. When she saw his face, she somehow felt better. She asked, "What's the matter?" Jiang Zhao's body slowly floated up and his upper body was exposed on the beach. He said, "Put them away, I'll take you somewhere." Han Jiangxue frowned slightly and said, "I'm standing guard." "And I'm your deputy commander," Jiang Zhao shrugged. Han Jiangxue glared at Jiang Zhao, but she obediently waved her hand and opened the space door of the hailing shelter. She pointed at the space door, and the elephant bishop immediately urged a few obsidian soldiers to enter the hailing shelter. "Where are we going?" Han Jiangxue asked softly after closing the space door and standing on the boulder. She took off the hairband from her wrist and tied her long hair that was messed up by the sea breeze. Jiang Zhao could tell that she was already getting ready for battle. The headband in her hand was originally a ruby bracelet that Jiang Zhao and the others had given her after conquering the void-dimensional space. However, she had modified it into a headband. "You don't have to tie your hair, just put on the Soul Devourer," said Jiang Zhao. "Oh." Han Jiangxue paused and summoned the Sea Devourer robe. She then put the ruby hairband back on her wrist and used it as a bracelet again. Tisk, tisk. Jiang Zhao touched his chin and murmured, "Seems like I've taught you well. You're really becoming more and more obedient." Han Jiangxue was dumbfounded. She quickly flew down from the boulder and stepped on the tree above Jiang Zhao's head, causing him to sink into the swirling quicksand. Jiang Zhao suddenly swallowed a mouthful of sand. "Let's go, I'll show you something good," a familiar voice said from behind. Han Jiangxue stepped on Jiang Zhao's head and turned around to look at him. Her stiff expression had also eased up considerably. For some reason, there was always a huge difference between the way she treated Jiang Zhao and the way she treated Jiang Zhao. At the next moment, Han Jiangxue felt her vision blur, and the picturesque beach turned into a dark void. In the distance, there was a string of strange star power words that were faintly discernible. Han Jiangxue raised her eyebrows slightly and said, "This is..." Before she could finish her sentence, she felt a warm sensation on her fingers. Han Jiangxue lowered her head and saw that Jiang Zhao was carefully holding her hand. Han Jiangxue did not fling his hand away. Instead, she raised her eyes and looked at him silently. However, Jiang Zhao did not look at her and was instead staring at her hand. Fair and slender, it was cold and soft to the touch. Han Jiangxue looked at his cautious but insatiable behavior. All of a sudden, she felt that it no longer mattered where she was. What really mattered was, why did he have such an attitude? In the past, he could hold her hand casually and the two of them were already used to it. However, this time, his actions and attitude seemed to be a little different. Han Jiangxue was a little confused and felt that something was going to happen. Jiang Shao finally raised his head, and there were 9 dazzling stars in his dark eyes. Buzz, at the next moment, the humming whale appeared above their heads and let out a whale's roar that echoed in the strange and silent environment. A few minutes later, Han Jiangxue suddenly grabbed Jiang Zhao's hand. In her mind, she saw the images transmitted by the humming whale. To be precise, the humming whale transmitted the world in Jiang Zhao's eyes to Han Jiangxue. They were 4 familiar figures. They weren't dressed in military uniforms, but their clothes were mostly the color of the desert. Xia Shanhai. Wu Huaxing. There was also a tall man wearing a desert coat and a round camouflage hat. He had a stern expression and a determined gaze. Beside him was a middle-aged woman with short, pretty hair who was wearing a brown trench coat and a brown scarf. Under the open brown windbreaker was a white blouse, which complemented her beautiful face. The images in Han Jiangxue's mind were like a movie that was playing slowly. She also let Jiang Shao hold her hand and slowly moved forward with the team of 4. When Han Jiangxue was alone with Jiang Shao, she would be less indifferent, but she would rarely show any emotional fluctuations. This time, however, a layer of mist appeared in her eyes. She slowly lowered her head and closed her eyes, allowing Jiang Shao to hold her hand and move forward. Finally, she embarked on the path that her parents had once taken. As for where the end of the path was, she still had no idea. She simply held his hand tightly. Chapter 1291. In the dimly lit dragon cave, 2 figures wearing pitch-black cloaks slowly floated forward. From time to time, they would stop and stand still for a long time, as if they were watching something. There was nothing in front of them, but in their minds, there was a team of elite star warriors fighting against the dragon creatures. They're really strong. They could already explore the dragon cave 8 years ago, and this team was not afraid at all when facing a single dragon. Jiang Shao finally witnessed how powerful Xia Shanhai was. Yes, Jiang Shao had worked with Xia Shanhai on the alien ball before, but as a member of the elite team, Xia Shanhai was mostly protecting the Chinese bulldozers. At this moment, in Jiang Zhao's eyes, Xia Shanhai, who killed everyone in the dragon cave back then, was far more reckless than Xia Yan. Is this really Xia Shanhai? In Jiang Zhao's opinion, Xia Shanhai was a calm and reliable uncle who gave him a sense of security. However, what Jiang Shao didn't know was that the Xia Shanhai he saw was already the Xia Shanhai who had been retired for 3 years after the Dragon Cave incident. People would always change. Back then, Xia Shanhai, who teamed up with the Han couple, was still a rash and reckless man. Tisk, tisk. Jiang Shao couldn't help but click his tongue and sigh. It's too suitable for our team's style. If we get him to participate in the National League or the World Cup, he'll probably be more useful than Xia Yan. This giant blade. This swordsmanship must at least be of platinum quality? Well, it made sense. Since Xia Shanhai could successfully turn Star Warriors into Star Warriors in the future, his skills would at least be of platinum quality according to the evaluation standards of Jiang Zhao's internal star map. Based on what Xia Shanhai had done, he might not even be at the platinum level. The glory of his father's generation had really been left in a corner of time and no one cared about it. If they didn't say it, their children would never know. Han Jiangshue's father, Han Qing, was a medical awakened star warrior. He was silent throughout the journey and rarely spoke. He simply did his best to protect his teammates. Han Jiangshue's mother, Jiang Hongye, was a rules awakened. The basic techniques should be similar to those of the Beijiang star techniques, but the advanced star techniques were all from Haisu and Shang Hu. The output was terrifying. That terrifying lethality did not match her gentle and beautiful appearance. As the commander of the team, she spoke the most. Unfortunately, Jiang Shao could only go back in time and judge what they were saying through their mouth. He could not hear it with his ears. With the help of the humming whale floating above, the image in Han Jiangshue's mind was exactly the same as what Jiang Shao saw. There was at most a delay of 2 to 3 seconds. After all, the humming whale had to observe the scenes through Jiang Zhao's line of sight before broadcasting it to Han Jiangshue. Hearing Jiang Zhao's sigh, Han Jiangshue couldn't help but raise her elbow and nudge Jiang Zhao's ribs. That's Uncle Xia, not a tool. However, even so, she still couldn't bear to let go of Jiang Zhao's palm. In fact, regardless of the outcome of pursuing her parents' footsteps, Han Jiangshue had already made up her mind. Jiang Shao smacked his lips and said, "What are you talking about? I didn't see you when you used Husky as a tool. Should we call Xia Yan over and see how heroic her father is?" Jiang Shao hurriedly changed the topic when he saw that Han Jiangshue's expression was amiss. Hearing this, Han Jiangshue pursed her lips and said, "You're the commanding officer, you call the shots." Jiang Shao was about to say something, but he saw that the scene in front of him suddenly shook. Is the dragon cave going to collapse? Forget it, let the humming whale remember these scenes and broadcast it to her when we get back. Jiang Shao frowned slightly and carefully looked at the scene in front of him. Of course, the team of 4 did not encounter the imprisoned dragon. Somewhere in the dragon cave, the dragons must have discovered and slaughtered the imprisoned dragon, causing the collapse of the space. All of a sudden, Han Jiangshue's heart began to race. If her parents disappeared in the dragon cave, the collapse of the dragon cave at this moment would undoubtedly start the countdown to their final ending. Within 15 to 20 minutes of the collapse of the dragon cavern, who knew which minute or which second it would take for them to hidden dragon? Jiang Shao could not help but sigh as he suddenly uttered the word. He saw a sneaky guy. To be exact, the hidden dragon had been present during the battle between the 4 of them and the fog dragon. However, the hidden dragon did not take any action at all. It had been hunting secretly, as if it was waiting for the 2 parties to suffer losses before giving a fatal blow. Due to the fact that it was time reversal, Jiang Shao did not have the ability to sense the environment at that time. Hence, he did not discover the existence of the hidden dragon. Of course, even if Jiang Shao traveled through time and returned to the battlefield, it would still be difficult for him to discover the existence of the hidden dragon. After all, the hidden dragon had activated its body concealment, and all the aura of life and star power fluctuations had been concealed. Only Jiang Zhao's field tears would be able to discover the missing space and the existence of the hidden dragon. Even with Han Jiangshue's diamond-level perception, she probably wouldn't be able to detect it. Jiang Shao subconsciously raised his right hand, but Han Jiangshue grabbed it tightly. He hurriedly adjusted himself, stretched out his left hand, and pointed in the air. Whoosh! The images in their minds froze one after another. Han Jiangshue's heart was pounding. As a witness to history, she was powerless and could not change anything. She could only let the situation develop. However, Jiang Shao frowned slightly. The collapse of the dragon cave had clearly caused the hidden dragon to panic and change its hunting plan. Jiang Shao pursed his lips and tapped his finger again, after which the image was played slowly. At the instant that the hidden dragon suddenly appeared, it spat out a small hidden dragon from its mouth. Diamond, hidden charge. The small hidden dragon was 8 meters long and its majestic body twisted frantically, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it charged towards the team of 4. On the one hand, the team of 4 was locked in a fierce battle with the fog dragon. On the other hand, the sudden collapse of the dragon cave, the trembling ground, and the shattered sky caused both parties to have a change in mentality. The change in mentality was directly reflected in their techniques and tactics. Jiang Hongye, the mother of Han, had clearly adjusted her tactics and shouted something. The team of 4 quickly retreated in an attempt to break away from the battle and stop entangling with the violent fog dragon. That was also the reason that the terrified fog dragon became even more aggressive. It rushed forward and spat out fog after fog. In their line of sight, Xia Shanhai summoned a giant blade that could shatter everything. Wu Huaxing stabbed out one resplendent star after another. Father Han. He should have activated group teleportation. Jiang Hongye, the mother of Han, waved her hand immediately and opened a space door in an attempt to act as a shield against the sudden appearance of the small hidden dragon above. However, no matter how fast her reaction was, she could not compare to the hidden dragon that had suddenly launched a sneak attack and was well prepared. Under the free control of concealment, the small hidden dragon roared and completely cut through the battlefield, instantly overturning the 2 melee fighters. The rules awakened and the medical awakened. Fortunately, it only overturned them and did not crush their bodies. The battle fighter Xia Shanhai and the assassin Wu Huaxing reacted extremely quickly and dodged it by a hair's breadth. The rules awakened Jiang Hongye and the medical awakened Han Qing retreated hurriedly. Almost at the same time, in the collapsed dragon cave, a spatial rift appeared where the couple retreated. Han Jiangshua's chest heaved up and down violently. Upon sight of this scene, she tightened her grip on Jiang Zhao's hand. If it weren't for the fact that Jiang Zhao had Jiao Yang endurance, she would have crushed his bones. At this moment, Jiang Zhao raised his left hand again and tapped his finger gently. Whoosh! The scene froze again. Did you see that? Jiang Zhao's Adam's apple squirmed and he asked in a trembling voice. Han Jiangxue closed her eyes tightly. After all, she was looking at the scene in her mind. She was already in despair, but after hearing Jiang Zhao's words, she couldn't help but perk up and carefully look at the scene in her mind. What am I looking at? Am I looking at them getting infinitely close to death? Am I looking at the last scene of their lives? Look at the next moment. Han Jiangshue's breathing paused. She finally knew what Jiang Zhao was talking about. That crack in space. In that crack, Jiang Zhao quickly floated forward with Han Jiangxue. In Han Jiangshue's mind, she was extremely close to her mother. Jiang Hongye's body that had been flipped over by Yin Chong and was sent flying backward, but under the inertia, she moved her hands and feet forward, as if the scene was like hugging Han Jiangxue. Whoosh! Han Jiangxue finally threw herself into the arms of her mother, Jiang Hongye, but she did not stay for even a second. Under Jiang Zhao's pull, she passed through her mother's embrace and arrived in front of the crack in space that was 1 meter away. It was a crack in space that was neither too big nor too small. Like a bolt of lightning, it tore a strange and distorted space apart. In the crack, or rather behind the crack, there was a faint white mist. The outline of the white figure could not be seen clearly, but one of its eyes could be vaguely seen. It was an eye with a vertical pupil. The looming eye seemed to be looking at the scene in the dragon cave through the crack of space and time. Is this also a dragon? Why is it living in the crack of space and time? Jiang Zhao opened his mouth wide in a daze. All along, the crack of space and time had been the scythe of the Grim Reaper to him. In Jiang Zhao's mind, the crack of space and time meant that his body had been cut up. However, Jiang Zhao had never explored what was behind the crack of space and time. Was it a void? Or was it another world of space? Jiang Zhao suddenly snapped out of his daze. In the second section of Star Warriors Era, the Star Beasts Illustrated Handbook, there was a dragon illustrated handbook in the dragon cave that he had never seen before. The scene was replayed again. The Han couple fell into the crack of space and time due to Yin Chang's unparalleled impact. Jiang Zhao had deliberately slowed down the playback, which was why it took so long. If he had done it at a normal speed, Yin Chong charged past the couple. It was already a blessing that they were able to dodge it. The shock wave of astral energy that Yin Chong sent the couple tumbling into the spatial crack in an instant. In fact, Jiang Hongye had dodged it, but Han Qing did not completely dodge it. The whiskers of the small hidden dragon were like whips that lashed at his thigh. Therefore, Jiang Hongye was sent flying backward, but Han Cheng's body spun rapidly. His thigh was torn and shattered, and blood splattered everywhere as he was sent flying. Jiang Shao could completely resist Yin Chong. However, to the Star Warriors who were at the peak of Earth, the power of Diamond Yin Chong in the past, in the Dragon Cavern, the Tail Feather Team's great shield warrior Tengu's body was directly shattered by a hidden charge while holding a shield. If it weren't for Jiang Shao, he would have been dead. Stop, Jiang Shao, stop. Han Jiangxue closed her eyes tightly while hot tears rolled down her cheeks. She covered her eyes with one hand and lowered her head. Unlike Jiang Shao, Han Jiangxue's attention was clearly on her parent. Even though everything in her mind was from Jiang Zhao's perspective, she was still focused on her parents. She watched as the two figures slowly faced death, watched as her father's thigh was instantly torn apart, and he had a miserable and painful expression on his face. They were devoured in the crack of space. Are they still alive? Are they really going to live in a corner? As Han Jiangxue murmured, the stars in Jiang Zhao's eyes quickly dissipated, and so did the images in her mind. Don't cry, it's okay. Jiang Shao didn't know what to say, and the words of comfort seemed weak and feeble. I'm okay? How can I be okay? Jiang Shao hugged Han Jiangxue's body, but his action caused her to have an even more intense reaction. She wrapped her arms around Jiang Zhao's neck and buried her face in his shoulder. Han Jiangxue could be heard sobbing softly. After so many years, it was the first time Jiang Shao had seen her cry. She had always been very strong, but after seeing such a scene, she completely broke down. Jiang Shao gently rubbed her back. In fact, he really wanted to tell her that there was still hope for everything, because there was still a creepy vertical pupil in the crack of space. However, Jiang Shao couldn't bring himself to say those words at all. If he gave her hope again, wouldn't it be even crueler if her family still died and her family broke apart in the end? Jiang Shao hugged Han Jiangxue with one hand and quickly switched star maps, after which he also put together a copy of Star Warriors Era. In the past, he didn't know what the last type of dragon in the Dragon Cave was. At this moment, he saw a strange vertical pupil, an illusory silhouette, and a white mist that seemed to exist and not exist at all. One can tell the whole picture just by looking at one spot. Now I've finally found it. So, will your illustrated handbook open to me? Jiang Shao flipped through the book with one hand and sensed that its owner's movements were awkward. The sea-devouring robe raised the tail of the cloak and turned into a small hand that helped Jiang Shao flip through the book. Here! Jiang Shao suddenly exclaimed as the tail of the sea-devouring robe fell. It was the last page of the Dragon Enslaving Illustrated Handbook. In Jiang Zhao's vision, it was still filled with mysterious words and symbols. However, a creepy vertical pupil appeared in the middle of the page. It was the same as what Jiang Shao saw just now. Just now, in Jiang Zhao's 9-star eyes, the mysterious and creepy dragon only revealed one eye behind the crack of space. Now, in the middle of the page that was filled with mysterious words and symbols, only one eye was revealed. Apart from this eye, everything else around him was still filled with words and symbols. And in this vertical pupil, there seemed to be an endless amount of secrets hidden. It seemed to be alive, and had a soul as it stared at Jiang Shao silently through the page. Chapter 1292. Jiang Shao held Star Warriors Era in one hand and looked at the vertical pupil pattern in the text while frowning and thinking, if this guy lives in the space-time rift, does it mean that Jiang Shao has to experience the process of the collapse of the Dragon Cave in order to find it in the space-time rift? This is way too dangerous, isn't it? Even if Jiang Shao had the endurance of Jiao Yang, his body would still be torn apart in the spacetime rift. Not to mention the spacetime rift, even an ordinary door of another dimensional space would be able to cut Jiang Zhao's body up neatly. All of a sudden, Jiang Shao felt his neck tighten. Han Jiangxue hugged Jiang Shao and sobbed softly. After a few minutes she had calmed down a lot, but she suddenly gave Jiang Shao a hard time, almost sending him away in joy. No matter how much she was a Rules Awakened, she was still a Rules Awakened who was at the peak of the starry sky level. Her physique was outstanding, and her strength was terrifying. Ahem. Jiang Shao, who was being strangled by the throat, couldn't help but cough. Han Jiangxue also loosened her grip on his arm. However, she said, something is coming. Unlike Jiang Shao, Han Jiangxue had the sea demon will, which was a diamond-level perception. Hearing her words, Jiang Shao froze. Something is coming? What is it? Are there other creatures here? Jiang Shao hurriedly turned his head to look, only to see that Han Jiangxue was pressing on his head and adjusting it by 45 degrees again. From afar, Jiang Shao saw a layer of white fog that looked like a ghost. It was almost transparent, but he could vaguely make out an outline of it. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. He held his breath and thought, this guy. This thing. Damn it! Jiang Shao suddenly said, I think I've seen this thing before. Stunned, Han Jiangxue asked, You've seen it before? Jiang Zhao's heart raced and he said, During the Lunar New Year, we were attacked by the Year Beast on Central Street. Do you remember? It was the Tauren stone statues. We helped the Victor's Legion to maintain order, and even received a commendation later on. We even got 10 bonus points for the college entrance examination. Han Jiangxue raised her eyebrows slightly. Of course, she remembered. In fact, Han Jiangxue's chain lightning star technique was the reward for her heroism. You're talking about... Han Jiangxue tried her best to recall the spring festival that happened a few years ago. Her eyes lit up and she asked, You're talking about the time you traveled through time? Yes. Jiang Shao nodded his head heavily. At that time, after resolving the crisis in Central Street, Jiang Shao and Han Jiangxue led a normal life and celebrated the Lunar New Year. When they were putting up Spring Festival couplets, Jiang Shao told Han Jiangxue about the so-called transmigration experience in detail. In fact, Jiang Shao wasn't sure if he would be back on Central Street when he opened his eyes again. So, hence, Jiang Shao turned around and kissed Han Jiangxue on her forehead while he was standing on the stool and pasting the Spring Festival couplet. Of course, Han Jiangxue didn't disappoint Jiang Shao and removed the stool from his feet. Jiang Shao immediately fell onto the ground and squatted in pain. He finally confirmed that he was in real life. Jiang Shao stared blankly at the outline of the fog that was slowly drifting closer, his heart filled with anticipation. Back then, you were the one who helped me? An ethereal and gentle sound spread through the silent space, lingering in the dim space that was filled with words and symbols. The almost transparent unknown creature that was faintly emitting wisps of fog slowly swam over, causing Jiang Zhao's body to tense up. You don't tell me you're going to save me again? Jiang Shao asked in a daze. Jiang Shao always felt that he managed to escape because of its appearance last time. In the future world that this mysterious creature had created for Jiang Shao had died once. At this moment, Jiang Shao had just reshaped the dragon cave and caused it to collapse again to search for the mysterious dragon that existed in the spatial rift. Then, this creature appeared? Jiang Shao had just thought of taking a risk and this creature appeared? What does it mean? Is it going to foresee the future for Jiang Shao again? Another sound sounded. Compared to the coquettish voice of the humming bear, the cry of this mysterious creature was clearly more ethereal and different from the sounds of any creature that Jiang Shao had ever heard. Jiang Shao and Han Jiangxue were all tensed up, only to see that the creature was slowly circling around the two of them, seemingly sizing them up. However, both of them were wearing the Soul Devourer of the Sea and were floating in the air. Hence, it was inevitable that Jiang Shao and Han Jiangxue would spin around on the spot while facing the unknown creature. The unknown creature seemed to be a little displeased, but it did not attack the two of them. However, a vertical pupil slowly appeared in its outline that was filled with fog. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. Han Jiangxue was dumbfounded. This creature is actually the last dragon in the dragon cave? After glancing at Jiang Shao with its vertical pupil, the strange creature turned around and left. Huh? Where's Tsundere? Jiang Shao hurriedly chased after it. Huh? Don't go, I'll show you. I'll show you the back, all right? As he spoke, Jiang Shao even flashed and appeared in front of the little creature with his back facing it. That wasn't all. Jiang Shao even spun around on the spot to show it his whole body. The fog in the vague outline became denser, and the little creature seemed to be much happier. It floated in the air, and also spun around on the spot. Han Jiangxue was speechless. In her line of sight, there were two little creatures floating in the air and spinning around on the spot. I don't know what they're doing, nor do I dare to ask. Are they circling around? Maybe. They're discussing their illness? Jiang Shao didn't dare to act rashly. While circling around with the little creature, he raised his head and looked at the humming whale that was wandering in the air in the distance. Can you help me communicate with it? Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. The first hum was obviously a response from the humming whale. The second buzzing sound came from the little fellow beside Jiang Shao, who was spinning in circles on the spot. That was not all. The strange creature that only had a vague outline and was emitting wisps of fog actually transformed into the form of a humming whale. A small humming whale? And it's almost transparent too? It's so cute. After thinking about it, Jiang Zhao's body also transformed and catered to its liking. The hum came from the humming whale that Jiang Shao was disguised as. Not only that, but Jiang Shao also disguised his voice so that it sounded exactly the same as the humming whale. The only pity was that the two of them could float, but the humming whale could not. However, the sea devourer wrapped its arms around Jiang Shao and spread out its cloak, forcing itself to be a carpet under Jiang Zhao's belly. Oh! Jiang Shao! Han Jiangxue held her forehead with one hand. Her eyes that were red from crying had yet to return to normal, but her mood, well, it had completely recovered. In the air, a large humming whale was looking down with a dumbfounded expression. Below them, the two small humming whales were still circling around in the same place. Just like this, the quiet dragon cave suddenly became lively. Humming sounds could be heard one after another, and it was extremely cheerful. The spinning, leaping, and closing eyes of the buzzing river suddenly slowed down, and finally came to a stop. Han Jiangxue frowned slightly and carefully observed the scene in front of her. The patient on the other side of the humming whale also slowly stopped, and its body began to transform. It seemed to have had a very friendly conversation with the humming whale and agreed to transform into its original form. Han Jiangxue's beautiful eyes widened slightly. A dragon-shaped creature that was less than 80 centimeters long and was emitting wisps of fog from head to toe, but its body was almost transparent and only its invisible outline appeared in front of her. It was difficult for Han Jiangxue to see the delicate structure of the small dragon clearly, but its vertical pupils were not transparent and were instead real. It was as if the only physical part of the dragon was its eyes. Han Jiangxue felt a blur in front of her, and Jiang Shao instantly transformed into a human. He then immediately pulled out a thick book from his chest. Damn! Jiang Shao muttered softly while his eyes darted back and forth between the dragon in front of him and the book in his hand. The Star Warrior era in his hand, which was full of words and only had a vertical pupil on the page, was also changing. Countless mysterious and weird characters and symbols turned into a picture and a series of Chinese characters. Gulp! Jiang Zhao's Adam's apple move. The creature that made him Prophet Jiang back then turned out to be the last dragon in the dragon cave? Dream Dragon Jiao Yang Rank Star Technique 1. Dream Casting. Create a dimensional space. Jiao Yang Quality 2. Dream entry. Break the dimensional barrier in the form of opening a dimensional space door and freely enter and exit various areas of space. Jiaoyang quality 3. Dream follower. Every dimensional space that is opened will give birth to a large number of dimensional creatures. Due to the difference in the environment that the dimensional space is connected to and the location of the dimensional space, the creatures bred in it will also change accordingly. Jiaoyang quality 4. Dream pickup. Create a real dream. In the dream, it will provide the dreamer with images that may happen in the future. Jiaoyang quality. Biological characteristics. Mischievous, dedicated. Biological characteristics. Everything in the world can be transformed at will. F*ck. Jiang Shao slapped himself on the forehead. What the F*ck this? A cute Jiaoyang dragon? Dream dragon? Jiang Zhao's mind raced. In other words, back then, didn't Dream Dragon come to Central Street to save Jiang Shao? Instead, it came to harm Jiang Shao? If Dream Dragon didn't appear in Central Street, Jiang Shao wouldn't have encountered those Taran stone statues at all. Did Dream Dragon barge into Central Street without permission and open a space door? Did the creatures bred in it come along? Did Dream Dragon single-handedly cause all of this? This Jiang Shao had a strange expression on his face, and he was even a little caught between laughter and tears. I'm still praising you, but in the end? You lured the Japanese here? As for the introduction, mischievous? Yes, Jiang Shao could feel it. This little guy was still very arrogant a second ago, but in the next second, he was happily running around with Jiang Shao. However, the latter part made Jiang Shao a little confused. What does it mean by dedicated? What is it guarding? Guarding the dragon cave? Dream Dragon Star Technique is indeed qualified to be the guardian of the dragon cave or even the god of creation. However, why aren't you guarding the dragon cave at the border of Fen City during the Lunar New Year? Why are you at Jiangbin Central Street? It's hundreds of kilometers away. Yes, there's no concept of distance in this world for you. But, is this considered dedicated? Isn't this considered dereliction of duty? At the thought of this, Jiang Zhao's heart skipped a beat and he wondered, could there be some hidden secrets? After all, the Star Beast Illustrated Handbook in Star Warriors should be 100% accurate. Chapter 1293. Han Jiangshu floated quietly at the side and watched Jiang Shao and Meng Long play. Just like that, after a long time, she did not feel impatient at all. Instead, she felt that the time was wonderful. Little Meng Long was very adorable and could change into various forms. It seemed to be showing off what it had seen and heard to Jiang Shao. After so many years of solitude, it had experienced and seen everything. On the other hand, Jiang Shao followed Meng Long's transformation and changed his form again and again. No matter how illusory and ethereal star beast Meng Long turned into, it would become a fleshy and clumsy fellow when it came to Jiang Shao in the dragon cave where there was no sky, earth, sun, moon, or stars. No one seemed to be able to feel the passage of time. Han Jiangshua's eyes were initially focused on Meng Long, but she slowly fixed them on Jiang Shao. Looking at his cheeky smile, Han Jiangshua somehow hoped that they could spend more time together like that for a little longer. The human, dragon, and whale played for a long time when Jiang Zhao's body suddenly stiffened. Clearly, he was not shocked because of Meng Long's transformation, but because something had happened while they were communicating telepathically. Han Jiangshua stared at Jiang Shao with bewilderment in her heart, but she did not go forward to disturb him. A few seconds later, Jiang Shao turned his head to look at Han Jiangshua with joy and said, "They don't seem to be dead." Han Jiangshua raised her eyebrows slightly and subconsciously asked, "They?" As soon as she said that, Han Jiangshua seemed to have realized something. The they that Jiang Shao was referring to was probably her parents. Mom and Dad seemed to be fine. Jiang Shao frantically said. This little guy sent them. Han Jiangshua's heart was in her throat as she asked in a trembling voice, "Where did they go?" Jiang Zhao's expression gradually turned solemn and he said, "The real world? What do you mean? What do you mean by the real world? Isn't our world real?" Han Jiangshua was about to ask something, but she heard Jiang Shao mumbling, "Oh, I misunderstood. You mean, the outside world? Another world?" Jiang Shao said carefully, "Then, can you lead the way for me and take us to see my parents? We're their children. You know? How did you know?" Jiang Xiaoming was stunned for a moment and scratched his head. For a time, the dragon cave fell into silence again. Jiang Shao smacked his lips and said, "Say something." Jiang Shao then looked up at the humming whale, thinking that there was something wrong with it. Buzz, the humming whale, expressed its grievance and let out a cry that echoed in this strange space. "There's nothing wrong with me. This guy suddenly stopped talking and stopped sending images to my mind. What do you want me to say?" Jiang Shao turned to look at Menglong, who was floating in midair and emitting wisps of mist. He asked again, "Can you bring us to see your parents?" At the next moment, little Menglong flew towards Jiang Shao. Jiang Shao licked his lips excitedly with a look of anticipation. However, Menglong circled around Jiang Shao again and sized him up. In fact, little Menglong finally showed some signs of beastly behavior. It actually used its transparent nose to sniff the scent on Jiang Zhao's body, as if trying to confirm something. Jiang Shao remained motionless, not knowing what it wanted to do. After observing for more than 10 minutes, the mischievous Menglong became extremely cautious. Finally, it floated in front of Jiang Zhao's face. Its almost transparent face was infinitely close to Jiang Zhao's face. Although its entire body was illusory and transparent, it was still emitting wisps of mist, after all. Its long whiskers swept across Jiang Zhao's face, giving him a chilly sensation. Jiang Shao resisted the urge to lean back. He had no choice but to admit that he was kissed. "As long as you can lead the way and bring me to the outside world, I don't mind letting you kiss me once." However, Jiang Shao seemed to have thought too much. Buzz, a small dragon's roar sounded. Under Jiang Zhao's astonished gaze, Menglong plunged into his chest. Well, to be exact, it pierced through Jiang Zhao's chest. It was also at this moment that Jiang Shao felt the surrounding environment change. It was no longer pitch black and no longer surrounded by mysterious star power words in the dragon cave. What replaced it was a patch of bright sky. There was a strong wave of star power. Jiang Shao was shocked. What kind of existence could emit such a strong wave of star power? Jiang Shao could not even catch his breath. The surrounding light had clearly become brighter, and he seemed to be standing under the scorching sun. In front of Jiang Shao, it was no longer an illusory world but a scorched land. Scorched land? Jiang Shao blinked and retreated with the sea-devouring robe on him. However, there was still scorched land in front of him. Jiang Shao could not help but look up. Apart from scorched land, there was more scorched land. An ethereal voice suddenly came from beside him. Jiang Shao hurriedly turned around and saw the Menglong that had changed its appearance. It was no longer transparent and the outline of its body was outlined by the white flames. The wisps of mist emitted from little Menglong's body had also turned into layers of fire mist. Buzz, the flaming Menglong, shook its head and flew up a few meters. It then turned its exquisite and charming flaming Menglong's head and looked at Jiang Shao with its vertical eyes. It then hooked its tail at Jiang Shao. "This action is very lifelike. You want me to follow you?" Jiang Shao blinked and thought, "Even if you bite me, I'll accept it. What's the point of following you?" Jiang Shao immediately flew upwards. The two of them flew vertically for a long time. The scorched land on Jiang Zhao's right was like a mountain with no peak. Not only was it endless, but it also had no end in sight. Just how big was this mountain? Could it be? Jiang Shao vaguely had a guess in his heart. While Jiang Shao was flying, He could not help but look to his left, only to see a blurry image. It seemed like there was everything, but it also seemed like he could not see anything clearly. Isn't this a little too metaphysical? What is this place? Is this? The more he could not see clearly, the more Jiang Shao wanted to see it clearly. Just as he was flying upwards rapidly and competing with the pixelated world, he heard a chirp from above. Buzz! However, this time, Jiang Shao could tell that something was different. Little Meng Dragon's voice was no longer cheerful. Instead, it was low and it was completely different from its previous state. Previously, this mischievous little dream dragon was a little arrogant, but it had always been in a state of cheerful laughter. However, at this moment, Jiang Shao could hear a tinge of sadness in the chirp. Jiang Shao hurriedly turned his head, only to see the outline of a huge eye. A tightly shut eye? That piece of skin that resembled a cracked earth outlined the shape of an eye socket. The lines on the eyelids were densely packed and could be said to be scorched. Jiang Shao even felt a little uncomfortable looking at it. Jiang Shao calmed himself down and could no longer care about following Little Meng Dragon. In a flash, he retreated 1,000 meters away. Finally, he understood what the mountain he saw just now was. It's actually a person. A person who is almost the same size as Earth Akatsuki. No. This mysterious person is even bigger than Earth Akatsuki. He's a true god-level star warrior with an indomitable and magnificent body. However, the difference between this person and Earth Akatsuki was that his entire body was scorched. Be it the cracked and fragmented skin or the color of the skin, they were all gray and black scorched earth. It turned out that Jiang Shao had been flying upwards while sticking close to his chest. In Jiang Zhao's vision, the burning Meng dragon was pitifully small, just like a faint flame line. That thin and small flame line slowly floated to the front of the scorched face. It continuously spun in his sunken eye sockets and let out a sorrowful cry. Buzz, buzz! The sorrowful cries made Jiang Zhao's heart almost break. Was this mysterious star warrior once the owner of Meng Dragon? Why is Little Meng Dragon so sad? Is it because its owner is already dead? To be honest, Jiang Shao and Meng Dragon had not known each other for a long time and had yet to establish a deep relationship. However, even an ordinary person would feel sympathetic when they see a crying baby abandoned on the street. Just as Jiang Shao attempted to flash forward and comfort Little Meng Dragon, he suddenly felt that the scene in front of him had changed again. Ah! Jiang Shao took a deep breath and panted heavily while his chest heaved up and down violently. In front of him was an exquisite face that seemed to have merged with all the beauty in the world. Han Jiangshua looked at Jiang Shao with a worried expression. She raised her palm and waved her slender fingers in front of Jiang Shao. After discovering that his eyes had regained focus, Han Jiangshua hurriedly held onto Jiang Zhao's shoulder and asked, "Are you all right? What happened? Why did you suddenly—" "No, I'm fine." Jiang Shao shook his head repeatedly and gestured for Han Jiangshua not to worry. However, he couldn't help but frown and explain, "I should have been hit by Meng Dragon's star technique. It should be Jiaoyang. Pick up the morning dream." Han Jiangshu asked, "Pick up the morning dream? The name is a little strange." Jiang Shao nodded affirmatively and looked past Han Jiangshua's shoulder to look at Meng Dragon that was floating not far away. This star technique can create a real dream. In the dream, it will provide the dreamer with some images that might happen in the future. Han Jiangshua pursed her lips nervously and said, "Foresee the future, just like what you did in Central Street back then? What did you see?" Jiang Shao calmed himself down and said, "I saw a body that was even more majestic than Earth Dawn. However, Big Earth Dawn had 4 seasons, all kinds of forests, lakes, snowy mountains, deserts, and grasslands, but the giant's body is covered in scorched earth, full of crack." Jiang Shao stared at Meng Dragon intently and added, "Besides, that giant seemed to be dead. I didn't sense any aura of life." In the beginning, I thought that there was a strange mountain in front of me that I couldn't see the end of. Han Jiangxue nodded thoughtfully. Being intelligent, she already had some conjectures in her heart. However, when that thought popped up in her mind, she felt that it was just wishful thinking. On the other hand, Jiang Shao looked at Meng Dragon with a burning gaze and said, "So, you guided the way for me. Or rather, your star technique guided the way for the two of us. You've become my partner, right?" Little Meng Dragon twisted its body in midair, but it did not respond. Jiang Shao hesitated for a moment, and star power suddenly flowed in front of his chest. A chubby little boy that was burning with a white candle flame appeared in his hand. Its round body was like jelly that was quivering. Little Candle's pair of candle eyes burned quietly as it curiously observed its surroundings. Meng Dragon finally responded to the appearance of little Meng Dragon. However, Meng Dragon didn't seem to be in a good mood. While it was creating the dream for Jiang Shao, it seemed to have also experienced the same dream. It had yet to get over the previous sad emotions. On the other hand, Jiang Shao opened his internal star map and decisively threw 100,000 skill points into little Meng Dragon's star power realm. The skill points were reserved for times like this. Golden red candle flame leveled up. Mutated, black and white, diamond quality level 1. Golden red candle flame leveled up. Mutated, black and white, diamond quality level 2. Golden red candle flame leveled up. Mutated, black and white, diamond quality level 9. Golden red candle flame leveled up. Mutated, black and white, star quality level 0. In the internal star map, a line appeared below the image of little Meng Dragon and pointed to an empty spot. Jiang Shao held little Meng Dragon with both hands, lowered his head, and gently pressed his lips on its soft and supple cheeks. He said softly, "Come on, little Meng Dragon, let's light it up and go to the outside world to take a look." Little Meng Dragon tried its best to raise its head, face, seemingly enjoying its master's kiss. It wriggled its body, and let its supple skin touch Jiang Zhao's lips again. Oh, little Meng Dragon, whose plot had succeeded, let out a cry of joy and swung its feet back and forth excitedly. It didn't care about the outside world or any grand goals. Its world was very simple and pure. Little Candle's carefree and innocent look made Jiang Shao laugh involuntarily. Not far away, Meng Long seemed to be infected by such a warm and interesting scene, and his mood improved a lot. Meng Long twisted its transparent body and slowly floated over with wisps of mist around it. Unsure if it was intentional or not, the path that Meng Long chose was rather interesting. It passed through Han Jiangshue's back and emerged from her chest before appearing in front of Jiang Shao. At this moment, Han Jiangshue's eyes suddenly became extremely empty. May this book end. It warmed the hearts of everyone who had accompanied the little toxic healer through the mountains and seas. Counting down to the end of the book. Treasure it as you read. Chapter 1294. In addition, the Weibo and Weixin accounts are both. Love of writing. After finishing this novel, when I have time, I will take a look and write some other short stories. You are welcome to follow me. Update of 9 stars Poison Milk currently typing. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1295. With the help of the humming whale, Jiang Shao confirmed with Meng Long again and finally carried the black and white candle to Meng Long's head. Here, little candle, rely on it. Jiang Shao placed little candle's face on the vague outline of Meng Long's dragon head, and at the same time, exhorted it. Meng Long, you can't resist at all. Your level is too high. In fact, the existence of Meng Long had already exceeded Jiang Zhao's understanding of star beasts. One had to know that even gods like Hopkins and Gaia could only reach the pinnacle of star end in their lifetime. What was the corresponding level of star beasts in the star end stage of human star warriors? It was the star grade. Meng Long was 2 ranks higher than the star warriors who were at the peak of the human race. This wasn't a joke. Jiang Shao would not believe that such a creature had no background. Logically speaking, it should be a supreme existence in the Star Warriors world. Hence, although Meng Long was included in the Star Beast illustration of Star Warriors era, Jiang Shao could not really classify it as a Star Beast. At least, it was not a Star Beast that humans knew of. The more terrifying thing was that Meng Long was the star pet of the Scorched Earth Star Warrior outside. Among all of Jiang Zhao's star pets, the one closest to Meng Long was the Poo-Poo Whale. At this moment, the Poo-Poo Whale was at star grade level 9. It was almost equivalent to the peak of Star Warriors. Unfortunately, the Poo-Poo Whale had been pretending to be dead in recent days. The battle between land and sea made the Poo-Poo Whale feel conflicted. Even though Jiang Shao had kept it in the star map, he had not called it out to play for some time. There was no problem with the relationship between the two of them. Jiang Shao understood very well that the Poo-Poo Whale needed time the most. It wanted to be alone. After all, the Poo-Poo Whale joined Jiang Zhao's team halfway. Unlike the humming whale would not be disturbed by too many factors. There was only one person in its huge and deep eyes, Jiang Shao. If the Poo-Poo Whale had continued to fight during this period of time, it might have already advanced to the Candle Moon grade. He had to choose the best from the best, however. Such an overlord of the deep sea could not be compared to Meng Long in terms of rank. Jiang Shao knew that he definitely could not simply treat Meng Long as a star pet. It seemed that he should treat it more like a guide. Or, according to the description in Star Warriors, treat it as a dutiful guardian. At this moment, the guardian took the initiative to join Jiang Zhao's team. Of course, Jiang Shao was secretly speculating about what would happen in the future. In a sense, Jiang Shao should have embarked on a path of no return after taking Meng Long into his pocket. However, if you were given such a chance, would you absorb it? A creature that could create everything in the world wanted to be your companion and join your team. Would you do it? F***ck. It means the unknown. It means the responsibilities that may come along with it. No way. That? Are you even human? Star Warriors were synonymous with the pursuit of limits and power. At least among the Star Warriors, Jiang Shao didn't think that any Star Warrior would be able to resist such a temptation. Jiang Shao was a strong-willed person. He was a warrior and a real man. It was no exaggeration to say that he could resist all temptations in the world. Unless the temptation was a creation god star pet, I have to add another one. Unless the temptation was little Jiangxue while he was deep in thought, he received a message from the internal star map. Fusion successful. 6-6, sixth dependent form, black and white candle dream. Damn. It smells so good. Jiang Shao couldn't help but stomp his feet in excitement. However, he was floating in the air, so he missed all his step. In his line of sight, the little Meng Long, which was almost transparent and emitting wisps of white mist, was suddenly ignited. Of course, the white flames on Meng Long's body would not really hurt it. Not only would it not, but the little candle flame had also completely fused with the Dream Dragon's body. At this moment, the almost transparent outline of the Dream Dragon was rendered by the white candle flame, revealing the exquisite dragon head of the white candle flame. The mist that the Dream Dragon emitted was also burning with sparks. As its body twisted and turned in the air, the white candlelight sprinkled sparks. Sparkling like stars, it was extremely beautiful. Wow. It's so comfortable. Jiang Shao opened his internal star map and looked under the picture of the black and white candle flame in the star pet section. A line appeared in the lower right corner and a new companion appeared on the right side of the picture of the Poo-Poo Whale, Meng Long. After the fusion was successful, Meng Long seemed to be much happier. Its body was burning with cold white candle flames and its slender body circled around Jiang Shao. Hum, this time, it no longer sized Jiang Shao up with a judgmental gaze. Instead, it stuck close to Jiang Shao and wrapped itself around him. It was clearly a terrifying dragon, but it had forcibly turned into a snake. The black and white candle dream wrapped itself around Jiang Zhao's body and swam slowly. From time to time, it would brush Jiang Zhao's face with its whiskers that were filled with candle flames. Hee. Jiang Shao scratched his face and stroked Meng Long's body with one hand before turning to look at Han Jiangxue. Before he finished speaking, Jiang Shao stopped. In his line of sight, Han Jiangxue's eyes were red and her gaze was hollow. Tears flowed down uncontrollably and stained her face. During the short trip to the Dragon Cave, Jiang Shao saw a different Han Jiangxue. He had never seen Han Jiangxue cry before, but he had already seen her twice today. It was enough to see how her emotions were fluctuating. What did she see? At this moment, Han Jiangxue looked the same as when Jiang Shao was affected by the star technique of Twilight Dream. Clearly, she had been taken to another world by Meng Long's star technique, and it was the story that happened in the other world that made her behave like that. Jiang Shao hurriedly flew forward, feeling a little helpless and unsure if he should disturb her. Surprisingly, the eccentric Meng Long who had been playing around also quietened down. It wrapped itself around Jiang Zhao's neck and turned into a flame scarf. Its 80-centimeter-long body wrapped itself around Jiang Zhao's neck, and its long dragon tail was placed on Jiang Zhao's back, burning all the way down. The exquisite flame dragon head was also placed on Jiang Zhao's chest. Jiang Shao lowered his head and looked at the quiet Meng Long, only to discover that, "It turns out that you're the same as the sea-swallowing robe? You're also a functional star pet? One is a black cloak, while the other is a white candle scarf. Then, I'll separate little candle from you, then I'll put on the candle cap, hat, scarf, coat. Is the three-piece set complete? TSK, how can the three-piece Atlantic Ocean set, which holds the Sea Soul lamp, wears the Sea Soul mask, and is a Sea Soul fish demon, compared to Jiang Shao? And the Andromeda constellation in the Arctic Ocean? How can the three-piece Arctic Ocean set, which has the chain spirit in its left hand, the spirit lock in its right hand, and the vengeful spirit in its body compare to it?" While he was secretly thinking about it, Han Jiangxue's eyes gradually became more focused. Jiang Shao hurriedly snapped back to his senses and asked with concern, "What did you see? Are you all right?" Han Jiangxue's emotions fluctuated a little too much. In just one day, she seemed to have released all the emotions that she had been suppressing for the past few years. Jiang Shao wasn't sure if she needed a shot of steadiness spell at this moment. Han Jiangxue bit her lips and looked at Jiang Shao with a complicated gaze, seemingly a little aggrieved. All of a sudden, Han Jiangxue raised her palm. Jiang Shao raised his eyebrows slightly, but he did not dodge. Han Jiangxue's palm froze in midair, and she raised it high. However, she lowered it gently and patted Jiang Zhao's face. Instead of slapping him, it was more like a gentle caress. Jiang Shao was speechless. Jiang Shao vaguely saw a hint of joy in Han Jiangxue's complicated gaze. Her tear-stained face gradually blushed, and she seemed to be a little shy. She then retracted her hand that was stroking Jiang Zhao's face and retreated a few meters. She then lowered her eyes and seemed to be thinking about something. Jiang Shao was speechless. Oh dear, has she gone crazy because of Shi Meng Chao? What exactly did she see? What's going to happen in the future? Jiang Shao placed his hands behind his back and leaned forward slightly. He then raised his head and looked at Han Jiangxue inquisitively. "What did you see?" Han Jiangxue rubbed her face and remained expressionless. She did not respond. Jiang Shao couldn't help but smack his lips in discomfort. "Let me tell you, it's not good for your health if your emotions continue to fluctuate like this." Han Jiangxue stared at Jiang Shao gloomily, as if she was looking at a criminal who didn't know that he was on the wanted list. After a while, she said softly, "Let's go to the outside world." Jiang Shao blinked. The outside world? It seems that she has seen a lot of things. At the thought of this, Jiang Shao was amused and said, "Okay, you've become a prophet now. Let me tell you, Menglong's star technique is to let the dreamer see everything that might happen. The focus is on the possibility. In other words, the future that is predicted might not be completely accurate." Hearing this, Han Jiangxue frowned slightly. After a long while, she nodded gently and said, "But it seems like something you would do." Jiang Shao froze for a moment and frantically asked, "What did I do?" Her reaction just now was so strange, Jiang Zhao's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at Han Jiangxue expectantly. He then asked, "Did I do something to you?" Han Jiangxue was speechless. Jiang Shao was filled with excitement. Although he had the intention but not the guts, he felt that it was good to think about it. "Wow, it feels great," Jiang HQ urged. "Hurry up and tell me." Han Jiangxue pursed her lips and reached out to gently pat the head of little Meng Long that was hanging on Jiang Zhao's chest. She then said, "Let's go." Stubborn Han had returned to the Jianghu again? Jiang Shao smacked his lips and said helplessly, "Okay, let's go." Jiang Shao then patted little Meng Long that was wrapped in a scarf and said, "Let's go. Are you going to open the space door, or should I flash out of this dimension? I'm actually very strong too. I just need you to give me a spatial location." Wait a minute. If this is the star technique of the planet scorched star technique, or even the body of the planet scorched, I don't need a spatial location at all? I just need to break through the space dimension and flash out. Then, I'll naturally appear next to the planet-scorched warrior? However, space star techniques were still relatively advanced technique. Before Jiang Shao was 100% sure of where he was, it would be best for him to play it safe. Since he had already come this far, he couldn't afford to be reckless. He had to keep in mind at all times, play it safe. We can win. Thank you, Little Hua, for the 50,000 yuan reward. Boss is so generous. There was still one more chapter to go. Chapter 1296. Jiang Shao waited for a long time, but there was no response from little Meng Long. He couldn't help but reach out again and gently rub its head. "Hey, wake up! Get up!" Smack! It would have been fine if he hadn't touched it, but with this slap, the dream dragon suddenly shattered into countless starlight and surged towards Jiang Zhao's star map. "What's going on? I didn't put you in the star map. How can you make decisions on your own? Damn it! Holy sh**t! Jiang Shao cursed inwardly, but the sound of his cursing got even louder. The reason? It was naturally because of the waves of star power that surged towards him. Some star power didn't seem to be much on the surface, and they were like starlight that was extremely beautiful. However, in reality, each star power was comparable to all of Jiang Zhao's star power? Wretch, only one star power that had been shattered into hundreds of starlight surged into Jiang Zhao's body, but it was enough to make Jiang Shao vomit. One star power was equivalent to 10 bottles of star power. This medicine is way too strong, isn't it? It's too strong. Jiang Shao immediately bent over and vomited. Han Jiangxue was shocked. Clearly, she did not see such a scene in the future. She had never imagined that taking back a star pet would cause such a huge scene. A star pet of the Jiao Yang rank is simply terrifying. How magnificent is this scene? The star power had clearly flowed into Jiang Zhao's body, but Han Jiangxue, who was standing at the side, had already been deprived of the right to breathe. Not to mention the gradual lack of oxygen, the surging and rich star power would be extremely beneficial to Han Jiangxue even if she ate some leftovers. Whoosh! Han Jiangxue involuntarily lit up her white flame star map as if it was a physical reaction. Coincidentally, Jiang Zhao's chest also bloomed with the Star Warrior era star map. Jiang Shao, who could not control himself, did not even have the time to adjust his star map. Fortunately, Jiang Shao had already advanced to the end of star stage through the decoy and received a second star map enlightenment. The white flames star map in front of Han Jiangshua's chest was burning vigorously like a behemoth that devoured everything. It was plundering the surrounding condensed air and devouring the huge waves of air brought about by the small band of star power. Meanwhile, the Star Warrior era in front of Jiang Zhao's chest was flipping through the pages randomly. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Han Jiangxue slowly raised her head and her eyes were filled with white flames. Her dark eyes were finally burning with white flames. Her eyes were like black and white candlelight, embedded in her emotionless and indifferent face, forming a frightening and strangely beautiful picture. Ha! Han Jiangxue was already out of breath, but she couldn't control herself. She sighed and exhaled the last breath in her body. In the dimly lit and spacious dragon cave, wherever her candlelight gaze could see, there were only white flames burning. Raging flames spread out, wreaking havoc in the surroundings. That aura seemed to want to burn everything in the world. Unfortunately, there was nothing for the flames to burn. Amidst the panic, Han Jiangxue did not completely lose her rationality. She could feel the energy in her body that was on the verge of exploding, as well as the desire and impulse to burn everything. Han Jiangxue didn't even dare to close her eyes because the white flames in her body were too horrifying. She vaguely felt that if she were to close her eyes forcefully, the white flames would burn her body into ashes without differentiating between friend and foe. Feeling helpless, she had no choice but to turn around and look into the distance, allowing the raging flames in her body to find a place to vent. At this moment, the dim dragon cave was completely lit up. There was nothing to burn, and that was probably the greatest fortune. The layers of white flames that were burning filled the sky in the distant space, forming white flame-shaped clouds. What shocked her was that there was nothing to burn. The white clouds of flames collided with each other and burned each other. Irritable. Really? Irritable. She was clearly a cold girl who had turned into a Star Warrior twice, yet she was so irritable. The end of Star Stage. The second advancement of the Star Warrior. The talented Han Jiangxue had long been transformed by the Star Warrior era, and her star power realm and potential had been developed to the greatest extent. And now, a few months later, in this dragon cave, she actually broke through to the star end stage before Jiang Shao by eating the leftovers. The two of them could be considered to be following each other closely. Han Jiangxue tried her best to float into the distance while letting the white flames fill the sky. At the same time, she distanced herself from the troublesome place and searched for air that she could breathe in. On the other hand, Jiang Shao did not have much of a choice. One by one, the star power spots fused into Jiang Zhao's body, and under the infusion of the massive star power torrent, Jiang Shao advanced directly. In wuxia and xianxia novels, there would always be things like blocked meridians, but for Jiang Shao blocked? Without Jiao Yang's level of endurance, Jiang Zhao's body would have been crushed by the star power. Who would dare to block it? Even the second ring in the capital at 5:30 p.m. wouldn't be able to block the terrifying star power. Jiang Shao, who was in a daze, was flipping through the pages of Star Warrior era in front of his chest. He couldn't help but worry that the book, which was already old, would turn into a mess by itself. Jiang Shao yelled in his heart, "I only took back a Jiao Yang star pet. I didn't devour a Jiao Yang star pet. Do I have to?" In a daze, Jiang Shao fell from the sky. It turned out that the sea-devouring robe that he was wearing had also been filled to the brim, and he had temporarily lost consciousness. The only thing that was spared was probably the humming whale floating in the distance above. With the ethereal cry of the whale, a small whirlpool appeared out of thin air and rotated under Jiang Zhao's feet. Jiang Zhao's body merged into the spinning whirlpool. Although he had stopped falling, Jiang Shao, who was already dizzy, became even more dizzy. Star Power Upgrade. Star Warrior Stage Level 1. Of cough cough pf, cough cough. Some people trained hard in solitude and found a flash of inspiration in solitude. After exhausting everything they had learned, they finally entered the Star Warrior stage. For example, the resentful three tails. There were some people who entered the Star End stage while they were still groaning. This world is really full of love. Mom, that's enough, it's really enough. Thank you, Mother Long. When Jiang Shao became a little more clear-headed, he immediately summoned Ao Dragon, Puff Whale, and Mewling Bear. Suck. Suck as hard as you can. We'll suck every day from now on. I'll summon Jiao Yang Meng Dragon again when I run out of star power and take it back again. Of course, there was another reason why Jiang Shao chose to summon the star pets in his body as soon as he woke up. It was because the few charging fortresses in his body were also full of power. Although they were far from comparable to the total amount of star power in Jiao Yang Menglong's body, summoning them would at least temporarily relieve Jiang Zhao's surging star power. That decision proved that Jiang Shao was slightly clear-headed because he did not summon Ao Dragon. As early as when Jiang Shao used Ao Dragon to destroy the Dragon Cave, he had already realized the seriousness of the problem. Hence, Jiang Shao was subconsciously very cautious about summoning the imprisoned dragon. If he were to summon Ao Dragon in this void, would the Dragon Cave be reopened? What choice would the Meng Dragon, which had just joined, make? Buzz, ew. The Puff Whale liked such an environment very much, but the Mewling Bear was a disgrace to the national treasure. As soon as it came out, it became flustered. The sense of weightlessness caused by the rapid fall woke up the Mewling Bear, who was sleeping soundly. Its small black eyes widened and it waved its arms and legs wildly. It fell rapidly and finally sat on the back of the Puff Whale. Jiang Shao finally felt a little more comfortable. He closed his eyes and the whirlpool beside him disappeared. He then fell onto the soft back of the Puff Whale. Vaguely, he felt as if he had received something incredible. Black and white Candle Whale upgraded. Candle Moon level, max. Condition met. Star Pet at max level. Skill points awarded, 80,000. After a full 10 minutes, Jiang Shao finally woke up and his brain started working again. Jiang Shao scratched his head in distress. Did I just receive a message? Jiang Shao hurriedly opened the internal star map. A few seconds later, his mouth was wide open. Fifth dependent form, black and white Candle Whale, max Candle Moon level. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. What's going on? I just got a Jiaoyang star pet. How come the Puff Whale has reached the max level when it has just advanced to the Candle Moon level? Has it reached the end of its growth? Jiang Shao couldn't help but rub his eyes. His small head was full of doubts. His basic skills, star power abundance and Xia family swordsmanship, were considered to be at the max level after they advanced to the star grade. There was no possibility of further improvement. The star grade was the 6th level. The max level of star pets was the 7th level. Candle Moon? Were the highest levels of various things different? Would all the star pets be at the max level when they reach the Candle Moon level? Could there be no possibility of further improvement? The Puff Whale also gave Jiang Shao an achievement. Star Pet at the max level. That's not right. What about Jiaoyang Menglong? It had clearly been successfully relied on by Little Candle Flame. There's such a huge Jiaoyang level. Why didn't it achieve anything? Besides, why did Menglong break the rules of star pets and enter a higher level? It's confirmed. It's not a dragon, it's a monkey. It's beyond the 3 realms and not in the 5 elements. With such a body, Jiang Shao, who didn't treat Menglong as a star pet, was even more in awe of this god of creation. Little Jiangxue. Where's little Jiangxue? Jiang Shao suddenly realized something and hurriedly looked around. She's so big and she's gone? Here. Han Jiangshue's voice sounded from behind. Jiang Shao finally heaved a sigh of relief and turned around to look into the distance, only to see Han Jiangxue floating over. Jiang Shao pursed his lips and tried his best to restrain his aura. He muttered to himself, "Is my aura that strong now? You don't even dare to open your eyes to look at me?" Han Jiangxue said calmly, "When you advanced, I advanced too." Jiang Shao was overjoyed. "Really? I was too focused on Yang. Vomiting just now. I didn't have time to pay attention to you." Han Jiangxue nodded slightly and said, "Yeah, I didn't open my eyes because I was worried that I would burn your star pet to death." Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. "Aren't you afraid of burning me to death? Am I that thick-skinned in your heart?" Jiang Shao flashed dozens of times on the spot and frantically consumed the star power in his body. He then carefully put away his star pet and switched his star map at the same time. He then put on a holy cross on his chest. "Well, I can brag, but I still have to cower." "Come on, open your eyes and let me take a look," Jiang Shao said. Of course, Han Jiangxue knew what Jiang Shao was doing. She stopped hesitating and slowly opened her beautiful eyes. His eyes, however, were a pair of normal eyes, without the slightest peculiarity. Jiang Shao asked with a doubtful expression, "There's no change in your eyes. Have you really advanced?" Han Jiangxue raised her hand and rubbed her eyes, only to realize that she was gradually getting used to everything. It seemed that the star map in her body had finally stopped erupting. She said softly, "Oh, it's good that you're fine." Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. "Are you kidding me?" Han Jiangxue suddenly raised her hand and pointed at Jiang Zhao's eyes. "You've changed." Jiang Shao froze and subconsciously said, "Impossible. I've never." Han Jiangxue blushed and glared at Jiang Shao. At this moment, Jiang Shao suddenly discovered that there was a white candle flame burning in her dark eyes. That white candle flame was very small. There was only a trace of it, and it disappeared in a flash. From the looks of it, she had really advanced, and she was gradually able to control this violent energy. Han Jiangxue said, "Your eyes have changed." Jiang Shao asked, "Huh?" He waved his hand and a piece of bait appeared in front of Jiang Shao. The sea-devouring robe swung its tail out considerately and allowed Jiang Shao to stand on it, sizing him up carefully. "I'm looking at myself." At the next moment, Jiang Shao felt a little creeped out. Jiang Zhao's pupils were originally round and looked like normal human eyeballs. At this moment, they had turned into a pair of vertical pupils. The first time Jiang Shao saw this pair of eyes was when he was in the crack in space. They were obviously Meng Long's eyes. Meng Long's entire body was almost transparent and there was only a faint outline. There was almost no physical body on its body. It only had a pair of vertical pupils that seemed to exist. At this moment, Meng Long's only eye that had entered Jiang Zhao's body had fused into Jiang Zhao's eyes. Han Jiangxue asked, "Is there any change?" "There's no change. The perspective is the same too." Jiang Shao frowned slightly and looked around. Han Jiangxue asked, "What?" Jiang Zhao's vertical pupils suddenly constricted to the middle, almost turning into a vertical line. Jiang Shao hurriedly turned around to look. In Jiang Zhao's line of sight, a string of star power words slowly floated over from the distant horizon. In Jiang Zhao's vertical pupils, the strange star power words were more like moving windows. Behind the windows, there were blue skies and white clouds. Is this the direction that Meng Long gave me? Is the outside world behind that window? Jiang Shao immediately opened the space door and Jiang Shao walked in. Jiang Shao looked at Han Jiangxue and said, "You go in too. I'm not sure what the environment outside is like." The meaning behind Jiang Zhao's words was clear. He was probably the first person in the world to think that the big boss of stars was not strong enough. True, De Ching thought, we're both younger brothers. Or younger sisters. Han Jiangxue shook her head gently and said, "No matter what happens, I'll face it with you." Looking at her determined expression, Jiang Shao pursed his lips and said, "Okay, P." Chapter 1297. In the silent dragon cave, Jiang Shao held Han Jiangshua's hand and floated towards the mysterious runes that were moving horizontally. Of course, in Han Jiangshua's eyes, it was a horizontal mysterious text. However, in Jiang Zhao's vertical pupil, there was a window. Jiang Shao raised his palm and tried to reach out of the window. His palm only penetrated the window, mysterious text, and his palm was still in the dragon cave. He did not reach out of the window. "Seems like we have to teleport." Jiang Shao muttered softly and looked around, only to see a vertical window above his head. "It's the same no matter where we go out, right?" Jiang Shao pursed his lips and turned to look at Han Jiangshu. "Are you ready?" Han Jiangshu said softly, "Yes. Let's go." Jiang Shao no longer hesitated and released the star power threads. With a flash, he brought Han Jiangshu out of the window. Whoosh! At the next moment, the environment that they were in changed completely. The scorching sun above their heads made their bodies feel warm, which was the complete opposite of the dark environment in the dragon cave. Beneath their feet was a churning sea of clouds, which obstructed their line of sight as they looked down. Behind the two of them, there were waves of strong astral power aura. However, it was different from the star power that Jiang Shao felt in the star technique, picking up dreams. Although the waves of star power behind them were strong and dense, they were far from suffocating. Compared to the dream that Meng Long brought to Jiang Shao previously, the intensity of the star power was on a completely different level. So, the prediction of picking up dreams was not entirely accurate. Or perhaps, when Meng Long sleepwalked with him previously, he had too many personal feelings for the scorched body, so the structure of the dream was half true and half false. Jiang Shao flashed again and reappeared 100 meters away. The two of them stood above a churning sea of clouds. They quickly turned around, and what they saw was a gigantic eye socket. Well, this scene was exactly the same as the previous dream. It was the body of an ancient star warrior. There was no aura of life at all, as if he had been dead for a long time. However, perhaps because he was too powerful, even after such a long time, his cracked, scorched body was still emitting astral power. If he flashed here through the window, does that mean that the dragon cave is his brain? Jiang Shao gently squeezed Han Jiangshua's palm and analyzed the situation at this moment. Han Jiangshua's palm struggled slightly. Jiang Shao asked, "Huh?" He looked at Han Jiangshua in bewilderment, wondering why she let go. After thinking about it, Jiang Shao decided to let go. On the other hand, Han Jiangshua flew backwards and looked at Jiang Shao with a hint of encouragement and blessings in her eyes. Jiang Shao frowned. "What do you mean?" "Girl, what exactly did you see in the vision of the future?" Han Jiangshua flew backward for dozens of meters before slowly coming to a stop. Not only did she stop, but she also clasped her hands together and pressed them against her chin. She then closed her beautiful eyes and lowered her head slightly, as if she was praying for something. "You." Before Jiang Shao could finish speaking, a thick book suddenly appeared in front of his chest. Star Warrior Era. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. "I didn't summon Star Warrior Era? This, just now, Meng Long took the initiative to integrate into my internal star map. Now, my internal star map is operating on its own and opening up on its own? It's rebelling. They're all rebelling." While Jiang Shao complained in his heart, a message suddenly appeared in his internal star map. Star Power Upgrade. End of Stars Level 2. Jiang Zhao's face stiffened. He had just entered the End of Stars stage. How could he suddenly advance to End of Stars Level 2 in just a minute? While Jiang Shao was feeling bewildered, another piece of information appeared in the internal star map. Star Power Upgrade. End of Stars Level 3. Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. He hurriedly opened his internal star map and discovered that his star power level was indeed increasing, and it was increasing automatically. Wait a minute. Something's wrong. The star power level has increased, but Jiang Zhao's skill points have decreased by 200,000. Star power upgrade. End of stars level 4. Jiang Zhao watched helplessly as his skill points decreased by another 100,000. Damn it. This. Before breaking through the window of the Dragon Cave and entering this world, Jiang Zhao had painstakingly accumulated 114,2574 skill points. In just a few seconds, there were only about 840,000 left. Jiang Zhao was extremely distressed. The star power level could be improved through training, and Jiang Zhao had saved so many skill points for the sake of dealing with unexpected situations or improving the quality of his star pet's star technique. He didn't do it for the sake of increasing his star power level. Star power upgrade. End of stars level 5. Jiang Zhao turned his head abruptly and looked at the huge and sunken eye socket. He stared at the scorched eyelids. Are you up to something? Star power upgrade. End of stars level 6. Star power upgrade. End of stars level 7. Those who transform me will live, those who break me will advance, those who resemble me will die. The information in the internal star map and the information on the 6th page of Star Warrior Era intertwined and filled Jiang Zhao's brain. Jiang Zhao covered his head with both hands. If it was just the information in the internal star map, it wouldn't be a big deal. The key was the information on the 6th page of Star Warrior Era. The sound was like the morning bell in the temple that made Jiang Zhao's head buzz. For some reason, when experiencing such a strange scene, Jiang Zhao was thinking about Han Jiangxue, who was behind him and praying with her hands clasped together. Star power upgrade. End of stars level 8. Those who transform me will live, those who break me will advance. Oh, Jiang Zhao had a pained expression and his head buzzed because of the majestic and loud voice. His body flew forward uncontrollably. Who's controlling my body? Is the sea-devouring robe carrying me forward? Obviously not, it's so well-behaved, so it's the dream dragon in my body? Star power upgrade. End of stars level 9. Those who transform me will live. Jiang Zhao plunged into the deep eye socket of the ancient star warrior, and just when he placed his palm on the cracked, grayish-red eyelid, crack, there seemed to be a sound of something breaking. While in a daze, the information in the internal star map completely disappeared. Not only did it disappear, but his internal star map seemed to have shattered. That was Jiang Zhao's feeling, a very pure feeling. This time, it seemed to be different from the previous times when the internal star map was closed and adjusted. It was very likely that it was really broken and would never return in his mind. There were only 4 words left. Those who transform me will live. Ha! Jiang Zhao's eyes widened and the 6th page of Star Warrior Era, in front of his chest, emitted a shocking ray of light. In the page, the sentence "body of sorrow" floated out and imprinted on Jiang Zhao's body, just like the human anatomy on the previous pages. Those who transform me will live. It was also at this moment that Jiang Zhao's body kept growing bigger, bigger, and bigger again. Hiss. As his body continued to grow, the clothes on Jiang Zhao, who was wearing the body of sorrow, were also torn apart. He hurriedly took off the sea-devouring robe and floated towards Han Jiangxue. In the sky there was a scorching hot sun. Above the sea of clouds, there was a young man who was growing rapidly and a young girl who was praying silently with her palms pressed together. And under this vast sea of clouds, along the scorched skin 10,000 meters down, on the ground there was a bustling city. In the bustling city there were crowds and heavy traffic. However, in just a few seconds, the entire modern city suddenly fell into a strange stagnation. People raised their heads in a daze and looked at the sky in the distance. They had long gotten used to the pair of scorched legs. Everyone knew who the owner of the pair of legs was. The myths and legends about him were all about him. In fact, the owner of the pair of legs was 1/9 of the credit for the normal operation of the planet. Unfortunately, the owner of the pair of legs had already died in the middle of the previous century. People were just speculating about his death. After all, in the decades of evolution, the pair of legs that were full of beautiful scenery and various terrains eventually turned into scorched earth. Such an evolution also confirmed the people's conjectures. However, his death was unlike that of a normal human. He did not die immediately, but after decades, people also wanted to go up and take a look. They wanted to observe and greet this god up close, but there was always an inexplicable energy that prevented them from getting close to the body. The body was very clear from afar. The closer they looked, the more blurry it became. It was extremely magical and strange. The star power that this god provided to the mainland was also getting thinner and thinner. People could clearly feel all of this, but there was nothing they could do. At this moment, is the body of this god finally going to shatter? Is he finally going to die? Can he no longer provide any energy to this world? On the street, a young man holding a briefcase sighed deeply. He was like an office worker who was running around for a living. He should have been in a hurry, but he stopped and looked up at the distant sky. The pair of scorched feet was gradually breaking. The young man bent down and reached out his hand to rub the soft fur of the ghost fox beside him. He said, "Let's move. Without the support of the energy emitted by the 9 bodies, it will be very difficult for you to survive here. I have the ability, and I can find a job anywhere. Let's go to the southwest. At least the 8 bodies are still alive and there are no signs of decay." Woo, the snow-white ghost fox whimpered softly. It looked up at the pair of feet that were gradually breaking, and hot tears flowed down its cheeks. To humans, it might feel lost, but to the ghost fox, it was more like the fall of a creator. In the middle of the street, the husband and wife in the driver's seat and passenger's seat got out of the car. The husband and wife placed their palms on the car door and looked up at the scene that looked like the end of the world. The father's Adam's apple move. This, finally, the mother could not help but cover her mouth with one hand, and her eyes widened. The next second, she hurriedly turned her head and looked through the window at her carefree son in the back seat. At this time, her child was playing happily with little fire clay. The 2 little guys were completely unaware of the drastic changes in this world. The mother's heart was filled with a trace of sorrow. If the 9 bodies died and there was no longer any energy supply, then her son's playmate would probably. Chapter 1298. The mother looked at the child playing in the back seat of the car, her heart full of worry. Not only her son's playmates, but even the structure of the entire society would encounter a huge change. In this country, although there was the existence of the 8th body, that body was too far away from here. It was in the southwest of the country, in the Great Tibet, in the stagnant city. All kinds of people, accompanied by all kinds of star beasts, stopped and looked up, their hearts heavy as they looked at the scene above. "Hello, everyone, I am now in Chang'an City." A host in a suit raised his hand slightly, gesturing to the guy carrying the camera. Not far in front of him stood an iron tree demon. The iron tree demon's body extended branches, firmly binding and fixing the camera, moved it up and pointed the camera at the host. The host continued, "Let me tell you a very unfortunate news. The 9 bodies, located in the land of Qin dynasty, above Chang'an City, since the phenomenon occurred in the middle of the last century, after decades of decline, it has finally reached the end of its life. Without the energy provided by the 9 bodies, with the land of Qin as the center, more than half of Huaxia's territory radiated out, including the outer Mongolia Empire, the central and eastern Siberia regions of the Russian Federation, as well as countries in the south of the peninsula, the north of the peninsula, Japan and so on, I am afraid there will be huge social changes. The social structure formed for thousands of years, the way people live, will also suffer unprecedented impact. I am afraid the center of Huaxia will move to the Great Tibet in the southwest region. After all, the eighth body of Great Tibet has not shown signs of decline. But no matter what, we are witnessing history, witnessing the fall of an ancient god. His body is breaking, and he is disappearing from our lives. The host was stunned for a moment, hurriedly raised his hand, motioning for the iron tree demon to move the camera up. Fool! Where are you? Where is your work? Why did you put the camera down? This iron tree demon was specially hired from the Guizhou province. It was a stable group of people carrying the camera. The two of them had been partners for a full 6 years. The iron tree demon had always been conscientious. It had never dropped the ball. Why today? This is... What is that? A series of exclamations caused the city, which had fallen into a state of stagnation, to almost boil over. The host hurriedly turned around and looked up at the sky. Unknowingly, a brand new foot that was filled with boundless vitality and covered the lush forest was slowly extending downwards. Opposite the newborn foot was the scorched foot on the other side that was slowly crumbling. The host's pupils constricted slightly as he asked in a trembling voice, What happened? At the same time, 10,000 meters up in the sky, above the layers of clouds, Han Jiangxue, who had her head lowered and was praying silently, suddenly opened her eyes. However, he did not look at Jiang Zhao's massive body in front of him. Instead, he looked to the side. In midair, there was a familiar yet unfamiliar figure. Wu Huaxing. Wu Huaxing smiled at Han Jiangxue and nodded slightly. Even though Han Jiangxue saw Wu Huaxing in the image of the future, she was still in disbelief when he really appeared in front of her. If this guy could break through the spacetime dimension, why would her parents leave her? Or rather, the departure of her parents was caused by Wu Huaxing's cooperation with a certain someone. Wu Huaxing joined her parents' team with a conspiracy in mind. Sensing the hostility in Han Jiangxue's eyes, Wu Huaxing seemed to have understood a lot of things. The person hidden in 702 smiled amiably. I know you're a little displeased with me. Wu Huaxing smiled and gestured at Jiang Zhao's body that was growing behind him. He continued, however, this child is one of the chosen heirs. All the chosen heirs need a unique environment to grow up in. The existence of Han Qing and Jiang Hongye will not only give this child a way out, but they will also guide him in the direction of his life. That's not what we want to see. What we want to see is the process of his self-struggle and the free development of humanity and character under certain conditions. Han Jiangxue looked at Wu Huaxing coldly. Han Jiangxue did not want to understand the plan of their level. She only knew that her family had left her for a long, long time. Wu Huaxing no longer looked at Han Jiangxue and instead stared at the distant sky. He said, You guys shouldn't have come here. At the next moment, a voice floated over. Tens of thousands of years ago, our home was destroyed. The 9 of us migrated here and transformed this planet. We also shaped this new world together. The 9 of us are people of the same era. If one of us gradually declines and eventually dies, it means that the other 8 will face the same fate. Maybe it won't be long before we choose our heirs in the same way. I have to have a chat with this new heir. Wu Huaxing's face turned sullen and he said, Leave. Another voice sounded from the sea of clouds. It seems that your vitality is still very strong. You can still hold on for tens of thousands of years. Han Jiangxue turned her head to look, only to see a white-haired granny and a middle-aged man with a solemn expression emerging from the sea of clouds. Above the clouds, Jiang Shao had no idea about the conversation between Wu Huaxing and the 2 mysterious people. At this moment, Jiang Shao was frantically expanding, or rather devouring the scorched body in front of him. Inheritance. Inheritance in the true sense of the word. Well, the kind that didn't have inheritance tax. The huge bodies of the scorched earth martialists formed a world of their own. This world was the Star Warriors' world that gave birth to Jiang Shao, Han Jiangxue, and the others. At this moment, the declining scorched body finally found a new heir after many rounds of selection. It handed its last energy and the entire world in its body to Jiang Shao. It was also at this moment that Jiang Shao, who had the entire world, felt what it meant to do whatever he wanted. The seventh page of Star Warriors era in his body was finally flipped open. A series of information surged into Jiang Zhao's brain. His body became a world of its own, the so-called Earth. Space enveloped the star technique and turned it into the so-called mutated sphere. Meng Long, as a companion of the same level created by the Scorched Planet Warrior, was the continuation of the will of the Scorched Planet Warrior, and was also the last gift he left for Jiang Shao. The existence of Meng Long could create countless dimensional spaces in Jiang Zhao's body. The vast and complicated knowledge on the seventh page made Jiang Shao completely immersed in it and unable to extricate himself. He couldn't care less about his surroundings at all. The relationship between his body and his own world, the relationship between Earth and the mutated sphere, the relationship between Meng Long and the projection, the relationship between the upper and lower dimensions. After an unknown period of time, the broken, scorched body finally turned into ashes, shattered and dissipated in the air. Jiang Shao, as a brand new, massive body, stood proudly in the sky at a height of 10,000 meters. The magnificent clouds were in front of his chest. Under the clouds was his vibrant body, which was very similar to Earth Dawn. His skin was covered by forests, grasslands, snowy mountains, waterfalls, all sorts of terrains. Above the clouds, Jiang Zhao's massive eyes were tightly shut. His attention was not on that place at all, but on the world in his body. In the world in Jiang Zhao's body, the battle between the land and the ocean was still ongoing. With the protection of Earth Dawn, Huaxia could still hold on. However, the other countries, especially the ocean countries, could be said to be in a state of war and suffering everywhere. Since that's the case, since I have this ability, I can reshape the order of this world and let it return to its original state. In the next second, location, in the world in Jiang Zhao's body, Sima Kingdom. Prince Bino led the army and resisted the Arctic Ocean Andromeda clan that came from afar. These female giants were wrapped in chains and had short brown curly hair scattered in front of their foreheads. They were swinging the chains around and conquering the land step by step. Swoosh, a huge door to a different dimension slowly opened in the sky. The chaotic battlefield by the sea suddenly fell into a standstill, as if the entire world had stopped. On the beach where blood flowed like a river and human corpses were everywhere, the people raised their heads and looked at the massive dimensional space door that covered the sky. It was as if the sky had leaked. Hiss, Countless of Andromeda constellation that had landed on the ground shouted out in panic. Gusts of violent winds swept across, waves surged to the sky, sweeping all of Andromeda constellation up into the sky and into the gigantic space door. All of a sudden, the sea and the sky were connected by countless waterspouts. Prince Bino looked at this scene in a daze and couldn't help but wipe his blood-stained eyes. What happened? God's intervention? Jesus came to Earth? That was only the situation that happened in the southern coast of the Sima Kingdom. In fact, the same thing happened on Earth. In the coastal areas of the various continents, huge dimensional space doors opened in the sky, and countless star beasts of the ocean faction were swept into the sky. In the seas of the various oceans, huge dimensional space doors slowly opened in the deep and shallow seas. Under the surging waves, the star beasts of the ocean faction were sent into the dimensional space door one after another. Where did the star beasts of the ocean faction go? The answer was, they had all entered Jiang Zhao's calamity world. As soon as the strange phenomenon occurred on the planet, Xia Yan received a call from second last. After taking the phone from her subordinate, Xia Yan said, "Madam." On the other end of the line, second last said in a hoarse voice, "Pass the phone to Jiang Shao." Xia Yan hurriedly flashed and arrived at the foot of Dadi Shao, who was standing on the southeast coast of Ludong. She then flashed again and leaped thousands of meters away. She then stood on Dadi Zhao's nose and exclaimed, "Hey, Jiang Shao, come and see me in your first form." Okay. As soon as she said that, the Dadi star map, decoy Jiang Shao, appeared behind Xia Yan. "Second last is looking for you. I reckon it has something to do with the global phenomenon." Xia Yan hurriedly handed the phone over. Decoy Jiang Shao grabbed the phone and said, "I did it. I'm reshaping the order of this world." Xia Yan widened her eyes and opened her mouth slightly, unable to say anything for a long time. "What do you mean by reshaping the order of this world? That torn sky, that huge spatial door that stretched as far as the eye could see, were you the one who created it?" Xia Yan's heart was in turmoil, and she was at a loss for words. Second last was the same. She couldn't utter a single word. Jiang Zhao's goal was already clear. From this moment onwards, his calamity world was the abnormal ball. His body was the earth. Decoy Jiang Shao continued, "Give me 3 days and I'll return you a world that was 3 years ago. A normal Star Warriors world that you're familiar with, one that has the upper and lower dimensions and the holy ground." Second last was dumbfounded. Chapter 1299. I recommend The Ninth Stargate, a platinum new book with guaranteed quality. Those who are interested can take a look. 3 days later. In Jiang Zhao's Star Warrior world, order was restored. The Marine Army was sent to Jiang Zhao's Calamity Shadow world, or rather, they were sent to the so-called Alien Sphere. With Jiang Zhao's intervention, the war between land and sea ushered in the final outcome. The land side, which belonged to the human camp, also learned a lesson from the counterattack of the Marine Army. In fact, not only the Marine Army, but also the star beasts in the Tinder cities of China were all sent to the alien sphere. Under such a level of natural disaster, no one could stop this scene from happening. On the third day, at 8 a.m. Beijing time, the first dimensional space, the Inferno Tribunal, suddenly opened in the suburbs of Beijing. Humans seemed to have realized that the Star Warrior world was returning. The dimensional spaces around the world opened one after another, and low-ranked creatures that had been weakened walked out of them. The people of the world finally understood that the Star Warrior world of the past had really returned. At the same time, Jiang Shao, who was standing in the sky above the main world, slowly opened his eyes. Wu Huaxing. Jiang Shao was stunned the moment he opened his eyes. Did I open my eyes wrongly? I'm still looking at the Star Warrior world in my body? No, little Jiangxue is still floating beside Wu Huaxing. Oh my god, this girl hasn't had a drop of water for 3 whole days, has she? However, Jiang Shao was overthinking. Han Jiangxue was living a comfortable life. She was also someone who carried a space with her and had everything she wanted. Of course, she couldn't ignore her concern for Jiang Shao because of that. After all, she really stayed by Jiang Zhao's side for 3 days and 3 nights. Wu Huaxing smiled and waved at Jiang Zhao's huge eye socket. "Transform your real body." Jiang Shao asked, "Huh?" Wu Huaxing said, "I'm not asking you to summon bait, but to transform your real body from this huge body. For the specific operation method, refer to when you were in the second form of the Earth star map and transform into the first form." Jiang Shao frowned slightly and thought about it for a while. With a thought, a normal-sized Jiang Shao appeared out of thin air. Jiang Shao looked at his palm and clenched it excitedly. "Not bad, I thought I'd be floating here forever." Wu Huaxing smiled and did not say anything. In a flash, Jiang Shao stood in front of Han Jiangxue and looked at Wu Huaxing. How did you break through the space dimension too? Wu Huaxing shrugged and said, in fact, I also have an identical body, just like you. Wu Huaxing then pointed at Jiang Zhao's magnificent body at the side. Jiang Zhao was dumbfounded. Wu Huaxing's state was obviously different from when they met previously. He was more subtle and expressive, and Jiang Zhao could tell that he was genuinely happy for Jiang Zhao. Wu Huaxing said, World Warrior Wu Wu is his world. It was shaped by 9 special people. The guy you inherited is one of them, and I am also one of them. Jiang Zhao blinked and said, You guys created a planet together? However, Wu Huaxing shook his head and said, No, the homeland that our race lived in was destroyed because of the chaos of war. The few of us who survived wandered through the universe and finally chose to settle down here and live. When we first came here, this planet was barren, but we didn't expect it to gradually produce a civilization under our influence. Jiang Zhao pursed his lips and wanted to say something, but Wu Huaxing said, My body is in the Great Treasury. Jiang Zhao said, The Great Treasury? Yes. Wu Huaxing nodded slightly. There are 9 of us and 9 bodies standing in the sky above the various continents. Those are our respective habitats, but we didn't expect to benefit the species on this planet. Although you're the successor, you've become one of us now. Jiang Zhao smacked his lips with a pained expression and said, You mean there are 7 people like us? Wu Huaxing snorted and said, Yes, 2 came the day before yesterday, but I chased them away. Now that you've stabilized, you can meet them. One of them is probably dying, and she has many questions to ask you. Jiang Zhao, sigh. What a pity. Wu Huaxing sighed deeply and said, We can only use inheritance to continue the race. We've worked so hard for so long, but we can't make humans evolve into our people. You're so young and you have a long life. Maybe one day you'll be able to do it? Who knows? Jiang Zhao suddenly said, Have you never thought about reproducing? Wu Huaxing took a deep breath and said, He's given you all the knowledge you need, including abilities. The 9-star eyes is one of his abilities. If you want to see the story of the past, or even trace back to our original home, you can use the 9-star eyes to search. Look at the damage that battle has brought to our homeland, to our remaining clansmen, the damage it has brought. Feeling the tense atmosphere, Wu Huaxing smiled and changed the topic. He said, Hee kid, you're really good at keeping secrets. In human terms, you're very secretive. Jiang Zhao was confused and asked, What do you mean? Wu Huaxing said, You know, you're not from the Star Warrior world. Jiang Zhao's breathing paused slightly. Wu Huaxing looked at Jiang Zhao with a playful expression. Actually, you're from the world in my body. Jiang Zhao opened his mouth wide and said, What do you mean by you? Wu Huaxing chuckled and said, This planet's scorched warrior came to me before he died and asked for my help. He would choose 2 people from the Star Warrior world in his body as candidates. He also hoped that I could choose a person of good quality as one of the candidates. In other words, I brought you into his Star Warrior world. Jiang Zhao looked at Wu Huaxing in a daze and said, You? Then, why isn't there any star power in the world in your body? Wu Huaxing nodded and said, Everyone works hard in different ways. They're all exploring the path of the continuation of their race. I'm trying one of them. In an environment without the concept of Star Warrior world, the human world in my body will be more focused on human technology. Actually, I really want to witness the level of technology that humans will develop through normal reproduction. I want to see if we can use their method to create our people. Every day, I'm witnessing history. It's very interesting. Jiang Zhao suddenly said, There are only 2 of me and Hopkins. Where's the other candidate? Wu Huaxing said, Dead. 40 years ago, he died in the alien ball. Jiang Zhao was speechless. How could you die with the internal star map? How tragic would that be? Wu Huaxing suddenly added, To be exact, he died in the hands of Hopkins. Jiang Shao was speechless. Has Hopkins been lying to Jiang Shao all along? He kept telling Jiang Shao that he had finally found his own kind after being alone for so long. But in fact, Hopkins had already found his own kind? And he even killed him personally? Damn it. For a moment, Jiang Shao had goosebumps all over his body. Wu Huaxing ignored the shocked Jiang Shao and gestured to Han Jiangshu. Her parents, including her younger brother, are now living in this world. Wu Huaxing then pointed at the sea of clouds below. It was obvious what he meant. The Han family had been brought there. Wu Huaxing said, "Given how much you care about Han Jiangxue, you'll definitely meet her parents. As someone who watched you grow up, I know what your character is like. I'm not worried that you'll do anything to these people. However, you'd better prepare what you're going to say." Before Jiang Shao could snap out of his daze, he heard another muffled thunder. The Han family couple and Jiang Xiaopi are all right? Are they all alive and well? Wu Huaxing smiled faintly, seemingly having not been so happy in a long time. He said, "Okay, let's end our conversation here. I've already told Han Jiangxue where her parents live. I'll go back to the treasury first. In the future, if my body collapses one day and we still can't find another way to continue the race, I'm afraid I'll choose a successor in this way too. When that time comes, remember to help me choose a good member of the clan." Jiang Shao frantically said, "Don't go, play a little longer. Why don't you not wait for thousands of years? Just commit suicide now. I think Han Jiangxue would be a good successor." Wu Huaxing was dumbfounded. Jiang Shao chuckled. He. Wu Huaxing left without even looking back. Jiang Shao and Han Jiangxue were the only ones left above the sea of clouds. On the other hand, Han Jiangxue was staring at Jiang Shao gloomily. Jiang Shao smiled awkwardly and said, He. Do you know why I did that?" Han Jiangxue asked all of a sudden. Jiang Shao nodded. "Which action?" Of course, it was the action of raising her hand and then gently putting it down. Jiang Shao said, "Sorry, there are some things that I dare not reveal." Han Jiangxue shook her head gently and said, "You don't have to apologize. You don't have the right to choose. You were forcibly brought to the Star Warriors world. Besides, after so many years, your attitude towards me, your friends, and your comrades has already made it clear. Not only do you not need to apologize, but everyone in that world should also thank you. In particular, those who live around you should be grateful for your existence." Jiang Shao said, "Okay." Han Jiangxue said, "That's why you asked us to call you Jiang Shao. Because that's your real name." "Okay." Jiang Shao scratched his head awkwardly. Han Jiangxue slowly drifted over and reached out to touch Jiang Zhao's face gently. She murmured, "I should have known that he wouldn't suddenly become so good." Jiang Shao closed his eyes, tilted his head slightly, and rubbed his face against her soft palm. There was silence above the sea of clouds. After some time, Han Jiangxue said softly, "Let's go home." "Oh." Chang'an City, main world, under the sea of clouds. In an ordinary house, a family of 3 was sitting in the living room. The father and son were drinking tea quietly while the mother was twiddling her fingers nervously, seemingly in a daze. The family of 3 was obviously waiting for someone. "Seems like they've already received the notice?" Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking on the door suddenly sounded. The couple's bodies stiffened slightly, but the young man suddenly jumped up and said, "Are they here?" The couple looked at each other and stood up. As for the young man, he had already run out. With one hand on the doorknob, he pushed the door open. All of a sudden, the 3 of them froze. Even though most of the people present had powerful senses, they all knew who was standing on the other side of the door. But, however, when they really saw each other, they were still a little shocked. The way they stared at each other was rather comical. You. Jiang Xiaopi pointed at Jiang Shao and stammered for a long time before saying, "You're really awesome. You're my idol. Damn it. In the beginning, Wu Huaxing said that I didn't deserve to have an internal star map and I wasn't happy about it. Later on, I really gave in to him. I go to class and you practice swordsmanship in the tragic night mountain. I sleep and you practice swordsmanship in the tragic night mountain. My semester has already ended and it's summer break, yet you're still practicing swordsmanship in the tragic night mountain. Are you masochistic? What a beautiful Chinese! Jiang Shao looked at Jiang Xiaopi with a dumbfounded expression. He initially thought that he would see his own body. After all, his soul had transmigrated. Wouldn't that mean swapping bodies? What happened in the end? Jiang Xiaopi was still in his own body. In other words, Jiang Xiaopi and Jiang Xiaopi were identical twins at this moment. Han Jiangshue's agitated heart sank a little when she saw the look in Jiang Xiaopi's eyes. She sighed softly and a sense of familiarity surged in her heart. Indeed, this is the real younger brother. It's too easy to tell them apart. Reuniting should have been a joyous occasion, but when she saw his face, especially his gaze and his state, Han Jiangshue suddenly felt infuriated. Her youth had returned. This world was just so wonderful. When you don't know anything, you'll be extremely confused. However, when you know the truth, you'll suddenly realize that it's so easy to tell Jiang Xiaopi and Jiang Xiaopi apart. Jiang Shao looked at Jiang Xiaopi in a daze and thought, is that scorched earth star warrior so considerate? Not only did he send you to your parents to grow up under their protection, he even created a body for you? Here's the problem. Where's my body? Where's the body in Wu Huaxing's world before my soul transmigrated? Is it dead? Damn it, I have to talk to Wu Huaxing about it. While thinking about it, Jiang Shao felt someone pouncing towards him. He subconsciously took a step to the side, only to see a middle-aged woman pouncing into Han Jiangshue's arms. Jiangshue, you've grown up. Great, you've grown up. My daughter, I've been watching you go through fire and water every day. Don't you know how worried I've been, Han Jiangshue? Even though she had personally experienced such a scene when she was picking up her star technique, she was still overwhelmed with emotions when she experienced it for the second time. Han Jiangshue lowered her head slightly and looked at the beautiful, short-haired, middle-aged woman in her arms. Han Jiangshue hugged her mother's body tightly and murmured softly, "Mom." She had been waiting for the word "Mom" for far too long. Jiang Shao couldn't help but make eye contact with the middle-aged man in the room. His father, Han Qing, smiled at Jiang Shao and said, "We know everything, you don't have to say anything. After all, you're a victim just like us. In addition, with Huaxing's help, we also saw what you did in the Star Warriors world. We've been paying attention to your news all the time. You've taken good care of Jiangshue. Thank you very much." Yes. The middle-aged woman in Han Jiangshue's arms suddenly said with tears in her eyes. She raised her head and looked at Jiang Shao in amazement. When I picked Xiaopi up from the trash can, I wanted to groom her into a perfect child husband who would take good care of her and protect her when she grows up. You're really, Han Qing yelled sternly with a stern expression, Hongye. After all, it was a god who was standing at their doorstep. They had to show respect. Besides, the relationship between the couple and Jiang Shao was obviously not in sync. Han Qing was very restrained, but Jiang Hongye was overly agitated. The Han couple had been paying attention to the news of Han Jiangshue and Jiang Shao through Wu Huaxing in the main world. In fact, they could even see the struggles of the two children through Wu Huaxing. It was no exaggeration to say that the two of them had grown up under the watch of the Han couple. However, Jiang Shao was different. It was his first time meeting the Han couple. How could their relationship be in sync? Jiang Shao blinked and looked at Jiang Hongye, whose eyes were red and full of admiration, and asked, "Child husband?" Jiang Hongye smiled apologetically. In her excitement, she blurted out without thinking. She wanted to apologize and explain herself. I mean, before Jiang Hongye could finish, Jiang Shao grabbed her hand and said, "Mom." Jiang Hongye was speechless. Han Cheng was speechless. Han Jiangshua's face was flushed, and she glared at Jiang Shao fiercely before slapping his hand away. She then walked into the house with her mother, Jiang Hongye. Han Cheng also stepped aside and invited, "Come in and have a cup of tea." "Oh." Jiang Shao strode in. At the side, Jiang Xiaopi leaned over and muttered, "Hey, I say, what exactly do you like about her?" Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. Han Cheng hollered again, "Jiang Xiaopi." Jiang Shao scratched his head and looked at his brother-in-law in front of him, after which a word popped up in his mind. Jiang Shao slapped Jiang Xiaopi on the shoulder and turned to look at Han Cheng. "Shall I help you train him?" "No, I'm not doing it. I know how self-torturing you lunatics are." Before Jiang Xiaopi could finish his sentence, he was shrouded by a ray of blessing. Jiang Xiaopi's head went blank and he let out a strange moan. His body collapsed onto the ground like a puddle of mud. In the living room far away, Han Jiangshua turned a deaf ear to the scene. However, she seemed to have heard her mother say something as she blushed and turned to look at Jiang Shao. She then hurriedly averted her gaze. Chapter 1300. 3 years later. In the Star Warriors University of Star Warriors World. In a teacher's office, the decoy, Jiang Shao, was sitting in front of a computer desk, staring at the computer screen in front of him while typing furiously on the keyboard and repeatedly revising his graduation thesis. At this moment, Jiang Shao had already taken back all the decoy, and there were only 2 of them left in the world. One of them was Fang Xingyun's student at the Star Warriors University in Beijing. After 3 years of continuously publishing papers and researching star techniques, star beasts, and star techniques, he and Fang Xingyun had already become renowned researchers around the world. Of course, Jiang Shao? He's the god of creation. How can he not research thoroughly? It was hard to say. There were too many secrets in the Star Warriors world, and the martial artists of Planet Scorched had left Jiang Shao a lot of legacies that Jiang Shao wanted to understand and study. In fact, in the process of continuously communicating with the world's scholars, Jiang Shao had also delved deeper into the Star Warriors world. He still remembered the teachings that the Scorched Earth martialists had taught him. At present, Jiang Shao was still in the state of the one who transforms me. As for when he would be able to the one who transforms me, he would have to study his own abilities and the Star Warriors world more deeply. Jiang Shao was most unwilling to walk down the same path as the martial artists of Planet Scorched. No matter what, he couldn't go to the point of the one who transforms me, right? Jiang Shao, who had a goal to strive for, was, of course, more willing to interact with the top researchers, scholars, and mentors in the Star Warriors world. By publishing star studies papers and discussing topics, he could get the world to help him understand the magical world of star studies. The decoy Jiang Shao was about to become Fang Xingyun's Ph.D. student. At this moment, Fang Xingyun's status had also risen, and her career had also advanced rapidly. She, who only had one master's student under her tutelage, had also obtained the qualifications to teach Ph.D. students in the year Jiang Shao graduated. In the Star Warriors world, there was another decoy, Jiang Shao, who was not revealed to the public. The decoy, Jiang Shao, had changed his appearance and was recruited by Second Last into the Star Warriors army to become her guard. Well, Jiang Shao, the bait, was more like a sparring partner. Whenever Second Last wanted to fight or vent her anger, she would look for the bait, Jiang Shao. Through repeated training, Jiang Zhao's archery skills, dagger skills, and boxing skills were constantly improving. The previous internal star map was already broken, but Jiang Shao now had the ability to create his own internal star map. However, Jiang Shao also discovered a problem. Previously, the upper limit of the battle techniques in the internal star map was actually the upper limit of the scorched earth warriors. Theoretically speaking, there was no end to learning. At least in terms of combat techniques, the star grade was definitely not the end. Now, the supreme controller of the Star Warriors world had been replaced by Jiang Shao. If he were to give the internal star map to someone else, the internal star map would be based on Jiang Zhao's criteria for judging combat skills. In that case, Jiang Zhao's gold quality, punches and kicks, would be capped. How could that work? Without the internal star map of the Scorched Earth Warriors, Jiang Shao would have to work hard to explore the high points of his combat technique. However, it didn't matter. He had a long life, and he didn't think that he was inferior to anyone. However, the internal star map that he created now was a little embarrassing. For example, if he were to give the internal star map to second last now, and she discovered that her punches and kicks had been capped as soon as she activated it? Her technique level has been maxed out? Isn't this a joke? The inheritance of the Scorched Earth Warriors was really strange. It gave Jiang Shao a large amount of knowledge and energy, but there was still a large part that Jiang Shao had to explore and create on his own. Perhaps this is the so-called, the one who breaks through me, right? Jiang Shao had to break through his original shackles from various angles and levels. He had to find a path that belonged to him. Apart from the two baits, one in the open and the other in the dark, there were no other bait. In the past, Jiang Shao, who was the deputy commander of the Star Warriors Army of China, retired honorably under the special approval of the commander-in-chief of the three armies. On the surface, he also joined the Star Warriors University in the capital for further studies. In other words, under Fang Xingyun's command, the bait Jiang Shao, who was about to study for a Ph.D., was the only Jiang Shao in the world. Jiang Shao had too many doubts about this world. What did he know about the Star Warriors world? He was just a god of creation doghead. As for the main Jiang Shao, in the Disaster Shadow World, Alien Sphere, in the Stone Villa area, Jiang Shao was by the lake in the forest. The scene that he had once imagined had become a reality. He was lying on the grass by the lake, resting his head on the furry and round Ying bear. At the side, the black and white candle flames were playing happily. In the huge lake, two large fish were swimming and playing in the deep lake. The sea-devouring robe floated on the surface of the lake, and on the roof of the three-story stone villa, Ao long coiled its body and slept soundly. The blue sky was filled with white clouds, birds were chirping, and flowers were fragrant. The forest by the lake was quiet. As an alien sphere, the Disaster Shadow World would naturally be projected into the lower dimensional space. In the past, it was uncontrollable, but now Jiang Shao, who had Meng Long, could control the area where the dimensional space was projected. At the very least, the villa area he was in would not be projected into any dimensional space on Earth. This is good. Let's make it out, shall we? Jiang Shao rested his head on the sleeping Ying bear, while holding a pen and a notebook in his hand and continuously drawing on it. Mission accomplished. Here, look, what do you think of this? Jiang Shao lit up the drawing and waved it at Meng Long. Meng Long floated beside Jiang Shao and tilted his head curiously, looking at the strange fellow that Jiang Shao had drawn. It was a puppy. A small husky. It was enough to show how lacking Jiang Zhao's imagination was. Jiang Shao said excitedly, "Let me think, what star technique should I give it?" First technique, more movement. Brass quality, passive technique. Apart from sleeping, it will never be idle and will always be in a commotion. Second technique, home demolition. It was a brass-grade passive skill. Everything he looked at would be torn apart. Third technique, pure bloodline. Silver quality, passive technique. Mischievous, playful, indiscriminate. Meng Long tilted his head, feeling that Jiang Shao wasn't too smart. Jiang Shao got more and more excited. "I'll make it out and place it in the Beijing area of the alien planet. You can cast a shadow on the Beijing on Earth. Let's see what kind of damage these huskies will bring to this world. Ha! A cold snort suddenly sounded beside him. Jiang Shao turned around and saw Xia Yan's figure flashing towards him. Xia Yan looked at the drawing in Jiang Zhao's hand and said, "In terms of being a dog, it's indeed inferior to you." Jiang Shao was dumbfounded. "Let's go, it's time to eat. Your sister asked me to come and get you." Xia Yan bent her knees slightly and reached out to touch little Meng Long's head. Little Meng Long responded happily. At the side, little Candle scurried over quickly and plunged into Xia Yan's soft arms. "That's my sister? That's my wife." Jiang Shao rested his head on Yingling Bear and looked at Xia Yan mockingly. "Ah!" Xia Yan stomped her feet and looked down at Jiang Shao. "Cut the crap. Get up, let's go home and eat." "Yo, Brigadier Xia, you're so authoritative. It's rare for you to have a break, and yet you're here to reprimand me?" Jiang Shao pursed his lips. Xia Yan said, "Me?" She suddenly knelt down and held little Candle in her hand, using it as a jelly cannon. She then sat on Jiang Zhao's face with little Candle's soft and supple but Little Candle blinked and seemed to find it amusing. Although Xia Yan had already let go, little Candle bounced on Jiang Zhao's face again. Jiang Shao was speechless. After putting on the sea-swallowing robe, Jiang Shao returned to the stone villa with little Meng Long and little Candle. In the dining room on the first floor, he could smell the aroma of food. Chef Han took out his signature dish again, and the aroma of the braised pork brought Jiang Shao back to a few years ago when they first met. Jiang Shao walked over and Han Jiangxue placed the dishes on the table. "Come on." She placed the braised pork in her hand in the middle of the table full of dishes. Seeing that Jiang Shao was walking over, Han Jiangxue turned her face sideways out of habit, allowing Jiang Zhao's lips to land on her fair and tender face. The two of them had such a tacit understanding, and Jiang Shao could tell that such a scene had already happened thousands of times. After the kiss, Jiang Shao winked at Xia Yan provocatively. "Damn it!" Xia Yan said through gritted teeth. All of a sudden, she walked over and planted her lips on the other side of Han Jiangxue's face. Han Jiangxue was speechless. Jiang Shao scratched his head and said, "This is my wife. It's only right and proper for me to kiss her." Xia Yan puffed up her chest and said, "She's my bestie, so it's only right and proper for me to kiss her." Jiang Shao suddenly turned around and planted his lips on Han Jiangxue's lip. Xia Yan was speechless. "Ha! It's confirmed. Xia Yan, you coward!" Jiang Shao chuckled. Han Jiangxue glared at Jiang Shao and blushed. She kicked Jiang Zhao's buttocks gently and said, "Go wash your hands." "Serves you right." Xia Yan chuckled gloatingly. "Kick." Han Jiangxue raised her long leg and kicked Xia Yan's buttocks gently again. "Go wash your hands too." Xia Yan looked at Han Jiangxue aggrievedly and rubbed her buttocks before walking to the center of the living room and standing in front of Jiang Shao. The water droplets of the tear field surrounded the entire living room, and the two of them were washing their hands while glaring at each other fiercely. Han Jiangxue couldn't help but say, "Hurry up, you two. The dishes are going to get cold." Jiang Zhao's figure flickered and he sat on the table, picked up a piece of braised pork, and put it into his mouth. "Wow, it's fatty but not greasy. It's so fragrant." Han Jiangxue hugged little Candle and fed Meng Long a piece of peach. She then scooped up a cherry and put it into little Candle's mouth. She turned to look at Xia Yan and said, "You've been promoted to a brigade commander recently. How's it going? Are you busy?" Xia Yan pursed her lips and picked up a piece of pork rib. "It's alright, it's pretty good. I don't know about the others, but Xia Shanhai is very happy. My mom called me a few days ago and told me that Xia Shanhai woke up laughing in the middle of the night. Hey, by the way, aren't you going to bring your parents back?" Han Jiangxue shook her head and said, "It's been so many years and they've already gotten used to living in that world." You didn't tell Uncle Xia about these things, did you? Xia Yan said, Don't worry, I didn't say anything. Xia Yan glanced at Jiang Shao and said, Someone has been nagging me about it. Jiang Shao looked at Xia Yan and said, If you want to go out and take a look, I can take you there. Excluding the main world, there are 8 other special worlds. Each world is different from our Star Warriors world. You'll like it. Xia Yan blinked, seemingly rather tempted. Jiang Shao smiled and said, When little Jiangxue and I go on our honeymoon, we'll go to a few other worlds to play. Shall we bring you along? Xia Yan's beautiful eyes lit up. Great. Let's go on a wedding trip. Jiang Shao said, It's a wedding trip for me and little Jiangxue. We'll bring you along too. Xia Yan shook her head repeatedly. I'm not listening. Xuexue is mine. Jiang Shao raised his eyebrows and exclaimed, Mine? Xia Yan raised her face and exclaimed, Mine. Jiang Shao exclaimed, Mine. Xia Yan exclaimed, Mine. Han Jiangxue held her forehead with one hand and couldn't help but sigh. Everything was the same as before. Nothing had changed at all. Little Candle blinked in bewilderment and asked, Huh? Outside the window, Enying Bear, who had smelled the fragrance and was leaning against the windowsill, rubbed its sleepy eyes and asked, Ah? Imprisoned Dragon, who was sleeping soundly on the roof, seemed to have been woken up by the childish ghost downstairs. It moved its head and went back to sleep. Buzz, in the lake, the 2 big fish that were spiritually connected to Jiang Shao could not help but let out a few whale-like cries when they saw the noisy and warm scene. The ethereal and gentle sound rushed out of the lake and spread throughout the lake and the forest. End of the book. Chapter 1301. End Scattering Flowers? 1 year and 7 months, a total of 570 days. Yu's head was dizzy from writing, but he was willing to endure it. Thank you so many people for liking this book, and thank you for your support for the Little Toxic Healer. I should also report my result. The average subscription is 40,000 plus, and you finally got what he wanted. After 10 years of writing, 6 books, and more than 10 million words, he finally signed in to the Great God's agreement. The old readers who had been following you could tell that most of Yu's previous works, such as Evolution by Devouring and The Winter Soldiers, were filled with bitterness and hatred, and their style was rather depressing. However, he did not expect this transformational work to have some improvement. It seems that my mischievous nature isn't suitable for writing dark novels? I have to maintain my style in the future and continue to work hard. Actually, the Little Toxic Healer in this book was the same as the protagonist in the previous book. He just had a different outer shell. He was loyal, persistent, and believed in promises. He also hoped that in the past year and a half, the Little Toxic Healer would be able to bring some warmth and comfort to everyone. It was enough for him to laugh, love, and accompany them. Now that the book was over, you had time to organize his Weibo and Prestige Workshop account. The name was You Who Loves Writing. During this period of rest, when he was bored, you would write some short stories in the Prestige Workshop account. Ah, I'm so relaxed. I finally don't have to sit in front of the computer tomorrow. I can finally empty my mind. Oh wow. I'm so happy just thinking about it. There's a time for us to meet and part, and we'll meet again someday. Everyone doesn't have to worry about the Little Toxic Healer anymore. Although Jiang Zhao's story has come to an end for us, his beautiful life has just begun for him. Finally, let me give you a sentence that runs through the entire book. May the lovers get married. May you find happiness in the mortal world. Scattering Flowers, bowing, getting off the stage. See you in the next book. At the top. Chapter 1302. The new book has been released. It's called Lord of 9 Stars. Brothers, please provide me with firepower during the release of the new book. The new book, 9 Stars Poison Milk, has been released. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 1303. The 9-Star Poison Healer's simplified physical version of Star Advent was finally on the market. Time passed too quickly. In the blink of an eye, Lord of 9 Stars had more than 1.4 million words, and the physical version of the 9-Star Poison Healer had just been released. Seriously, fortunately, we are both from the Star Advent universe. Our story is still continuing at this time. Yu's Weibo Yu who loves writing was doing an activity to draw physical copies of the book. There were also purchase links in the Weibo comments section. Those who liked it could go and take a look. Later on, Weibo would also draw some little Poison Healer merchandise and small gift. The physical version of the 9-Star Poison Healer, Star Advent, was sold on Taobao, Tmall, Jingdong, and Weibo. You could just search for Star Advent. Thank you for your support for Little Shrimpy, Little Jiangxue, and Xia Era. They will appear again in the future, and the story will continue, definitely. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.